Outside tonight, mostly cloudy, lows in the upper teens. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Happy Thursday to you, my little buddy Dominic.
Rudy, happy Thursday. It's not Friday yet, but it's still great to be on the radio with you once again, my friend.
Dominic, it will be a tremendous day indeed. And I'm going to make a prediction right off the top. Donald Trump will declare national emergency either today or tomorrow. Maybe while we're on the air today.
Oh, really? You're making that prediction?
Well, CNN is reporting via Chiron, White House preparing legal justification for national emergency.
They don't have the legal justification.
And Donald Trump, you know, he did the obligatory trip down to the border today.
Well, he gave it a once-over and decided that now we are in danger. What kind of grave danger? Are we in grave danger? What a joke. He will not do it. The Republicans will talk him out of it.
And what'd you say to me, Dom? He put on his outside clothes.
You're right. He's got like a windbreaker, like he's working really hard on a terrible-looking cap to cover that terrible hair.
Well, it's a Make America Great Again hat, but not the standard red.
No,
he's got the white.
Oh, but it still says Make America Great Again?
Yes.
You know, he had a tweet today earlier I saw. That's all it said. Make America Great. What?
Well, he's coming to Texas. The new sheriff wearing the white hat and all that kind of stuff.
Is that what it is?
You think a 10-gallon hat. Maybe he could have borrowed some from Sheriff David A. Clark Jr.
All hat, no kettle.
Both men. But Dominic, here's I think the most captivating headline overnight of the day. And it's not written this way precisely, but the headline is, Scott Walker is Donald Trump's bitch.
Oh!
I moved on her like a bitch.
Did Donald Trump take Scott Walker furniture shopping?
I gave it to Scott Walker.
I think he did.
I'm going to be your sheriff. You're going to be my deputy trainees.
Maybe Scott Walker got some breast enhancements. You know, Scott Walker is married.
And they literally and figuratively get hooked. And once they get hooked, there's no going back.
Dominic, I want to start right here. Your copy's over there, man. Stealing my copy. Here, I was prepared. Thanks to you.
Our copy.
We're sharing.
Yeah.
I'm not good at sharing. I don't even like sharing the airwaves some days. I think my opinion's much more valid.
Yeah, you have a lot to say sometimes,
well,
Michael.
Once again, here's my opinion. Scott Walker, officially, Donald Trump's bitch. Or as it's declared in the headline at the Madison.com, Scott Walker says he will chair Trump's Wisconsin re-election campaign.
What?
He is an unbelievably talented guy. I'm telling you, Scott Walker.
Brian, do we have the sound of Walker when he dropped out of the presidential race? I know it might be a late ask here, but it wasn't so very long ago that the governor, former governor, God, it's got to remember to say that. I'm so excited. The former governor, the failed presidential candidate, and now the failed governor, Scott Walker, dropped out of the race so a more conservative messenger could arise. And now
I believe that I'm being called to lead by helping to clear the field in this race so that a positive conservative message can rise to the top of the field.
So,
son of a bitch.
Does that mean God wants Scott Walker to be Trump's bitch? Because he felt he was called to lead by not leading, and now he's Trump's bitch.
Scott Walker's just trying to keep his electoral profile front and center. Of course, he's already mentioned as recently as yesterday, perhaps running for the U.S. Senate in 2022.
Whoa, rats running to a sinking ship? Is that how desperate he is? Does
Really?
he not see what is happening?
No moral principles, no scruples. Really, no scruples. I mean, he has done, in effect, the full Paul Ryan.
He laid down.
They've merged their agendas.
Rolled over, gave Trump his belly, and now he's getting a belly scratch.
I'm really proud of what we've been able to do.
Oh, wow.
I would just say, those aren't pillows. Riley Vetterkind at themadison.com. He says it well. Former Governor Scott Walker said Wednesday he plans to hold a key role in President Donald Trump's 2020 re-election campaign in Wisconsin while reiterating his interest in a potential 2022 bid for governor or U.S. Senate, trying to keep his options open. I'm going to help chair Trump's and Vice President Pence's re-election campaign here in Wisconsin, Walker said. I'm going to be part of making sure that we keep this president, this administration intact. Whew. Do you think anyone's thinking that other than Scott Walker right now? I mean, is this just the company line? It's got to be just the company line, right?
Well, it's always the company line. The fact that, really they get paid to get up there and go say this kind of drivel. I can't imagine he believes it. Or was it the company line when he, remarked that Donald Trump is not a positive conservative messenger, perhaps? It can't be both. Now, either what? Trump did something to bring Scott Walker along to show him the light that he is, in fact, truly the conservative messenger?
Well, he did come campaign for him in Mosinee.
See how that worked out.
And they broke a little ground together on the Foxconn plant. So they got that, which is nice. Anyways, back to the piece. Walker's comments come just days after leaving office as one of the state's top Republicans and position him firmly as a supporter of a figure he had staunchly opposed during the 2016 presidential primary. In November, he lost a third-term re-election bid. Let me repeat that. He lost a third-term re-election bid to State Superintendent Tony Evers, partly because of the public backlash against Trump in Real Resistance Radio. I'd like to think we did our little part as well,
just a little part.
In his comments Wednesday during a Fox News interview, Walker reiterated his interest in potentially running for the seat currently held by U.S. Senator Ron Rojo Johnson, a Republican from Las Vegas, if Johnson opts not to run again. Johnson had previously said his current 6-year term would be his last. The seat is up for re-election in 2022. Now, I would point out, when we first met Ron Johnson, and this was 2014-15, rumor on the street then was he wasn't going to run for re-election.
Then. Yeah. He had a lot more work to do, I guess.
Johnson has previously said his current 6-year term would be his last. The seat is up for re-election in 2022. A Walker spokesman, when asked to confirm Walker's future role with the Trump campaign, had no immediate comment. Now, when you're unemployed, do you need a spokesperson?
Breaking news, Curdy, he will be, apparently, Trump's bitch. I didn't know there was such a position in the campaign.
Now, is it uppercase B or lowercase B?
Little bitch.
They hire usually good people.
And he moves on him like a bitch.
Bring out the gimp. Walker and Trump, who campaigned together shortly before the November midterms, have not always gotten along. The two tussled on the debate stage. You remember that? America doesn't need an apprentice, sir.
We don't need another apprentice in the White House. We already have an apprentice in the White House.
Remember how Scott Walker smacked of desperation in that last Republican presidential debate? And then he went to the spin room for hours. This is a guy...
He closed down the spin room that night.
When we were at the Iowa Freedom Summit, didn't even appear in the spin room. Donald Trump went to the spin room, which was no bigger than our radio studio, seemingly. And Scott Walker, too big a star. He's a star, a bright, shining star.
And when I see Scott Walker with his little motorcycle and he puts his helmet on and he gets off and he makes a speech, but he's always riding like he gets off a bike like he's a big tough guy, okay, or a little tough guy.
A little tough guy. I mean, what did Trump say? He ruined the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a mess. The roads are a mess. The schools are a mess. I remember it wasn't that long ago.
I'll be modestly redundant, I'll reread this paragraph. The two tussled on the debate stage during Walker's brief presidential run in 2015, with Walker saying, "We don't need another apprentice in the White House," and Trump saying Walker had mismanaged the state. When Walker dropped out in September of 2015, he urged other candidates to do the same to prevent Trump from winning the nomination. Walker then endorsed Senator Ted Cruz, Republican from Texas, for president during Wisconsin's primary, which Cruz won. He later backed Trump as he cruised towards the party's nomination. And I got to tell you, we crashed Scott Walker's Riverfront Party, Shooters on the River, at the RNC. And somehow we talked our way in the door. We were invited in, ultimately.
In Cleveland, yeah.
But we showed up relatively uninvited. David Blaska hardly counts.
He did invite us.
He did invite us, and we did show up.
True,
and we did get in, and you sat down the bar from Scott Walker that night.
Scott Walker and the whole family was right around the corner of the bar there. And I did not approach. I was standoffish that night. It was their party. We were just drinking their beer.
Was it really a party, though? I mean, that would be like saying Scott Walker's...
I was having fun.
Monday night...
I'm always having a party.
Tony Evers' inaugural gala counter-programming party, right? Because Scott Walker was quite long in the face that day as well. That was a sad day for the governor. Hashtag sad. He knew his dreams, his lifelong ambition, had been crushed on the rocks. That was Donald Trump. And now Donald Trump says, "Hey, Scotty boy, get me some butter, another glass of water, and, chair my campaign in Wisconsin, you little bitch." And Scott Walker says, "Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, may I have another?"
Thank you, may I have another? Sir, yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Walker said in his post-government career, he plans to travel the country to tout his conservative message. On Wednesday, he said he hopes to soon join the private sector, which he hasn't had to do during a 25-year career in public office.
Oh, he's looking forward to joining the private sector, huh? Can't wait to go out there and pound the pavement, huh, Scotty?
He might have some bed sores after 25 years in the hammock.
No, it's supposed to be a trampoline, this government service. Service to your constituency, to your neighbors, and then move along.
Dominic, the former governor, in a recent interview with the Associated Press, praised the president for his judicial appointments, tax law, and trade agreements, but said he has disagreed with some of Trump's divisive social media rhetoric. He said he would not challenge Trump for the party's nomination in 2020. No.
He also said he wasn't running for president last time. Scott Walker is very similar in many regards to the president. Some of the things they say, a lot of the things they say really are not accurate.
Do you think Scotty Wanker, do you think he's hanging out at the condo in Milwaukee today? Do you think he's tuned in the greatest radio show ever?
Hell, come on. Scotty, you got to come down now. You're not governor anymore. You're just another cat in the private sector, right? Come down, have a beer, talk some politics with the Devil's Advocates. We would love to have you in studio.
Or just on the airwaves, you can call us at 844-967-2789. A big show. Wisconsin State Rep Jimmy Anderson has got a lawsuit against the Republicans. Erin Grunze, Executive Director, League of Women Voters of Wisconsin. They also have a lawsuit against the Republican-led GOP lame duck coup in the state of Wisconsin. We will talk with both of them later in this hour. Come back, you on the phones perhaps. Once again, the number 8496-PARTY. Yes, actually, Scott Walker, you are his bitch.
Because I've been nice to Scott Walker. And, he's a nice guy. I like that he was fighting. At least I didn't know what the hell he was doing, but he was fighting, and I like a fighter.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
They hire usually good people.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
No, I'm going to stay for a while. How about that?
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Governor Scott Walker is dead.
Freedom.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Hi, Resistance Radio listeners. This is Kim Schrader, the president of the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association. We are the 4,600 educators who make Milwaukee's public education system possible. MTA members are the guardians of public education because every single day we are fighting to strengthen and protect public schools our students deserve. MTA educators are leading the fight in Milwaukee public schools for smaller class sizes, more recess, physical education, art, and music opportunities for every child in MPS. MTA educators are the champions for healthier school meals, positive discipline practices, equitable schools, and schools that partner with parents. MTA members are the guardians of public education, and we are proud to teach all children, regardless of their zip code. To learn more, follow us on Facebook at the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association.
The Devil's Advocates.
Tom Perez, chair of the Democratic National Committee. Scott Walker went on something of a Twitter storm, very Trumpian. What do you think this foretells for Scott Walker's future as the governor of the state of Wisconsin?
Wisconsinites have woken up. He talked about we need an optimistic message. How can you make people feel optimistic when you take away their health care? How can you make people optimistic when you take away the right to bargain? How can you make people feel optimistic when you're gerrymandering the heck out of districts?
Radio for the 99%. The Devil's Advocates, where there's always time for Scott Walker bashing. Hashtag Walker bashing.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Real Resistance Radio, streaming on the YouTubes and Facebook pages, on Twitter at Devil Radio. Phone lines are open. Toll-free talk or text the party line is 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I know we are preaching to the choir, to the converted. They're already listening, but you better tell somebody, because why wouldn't everybody listen to the greatest radio show ever? You're listening right now. Tell somebody.
Yes. I'm sorry, man. I was getting the computer set
modestly
over.
distracted over there. This show getting in the way of your eBay surfing. What are you doing? You trying to catch a bid on eBay?
I'm setting up. We have this, you can text us here at the phone line as well. So I just open up that
so
program.
It was
so we
work
yes.
related-ish.
Yes. Well, I'm always working. Just ask me.
844-967-2789. Let's see if the phone lines are working. Oh, what happened to Wisco Paul?
I guess he's out. He had to call back. But
he had a rough connection, and he's going to call back after the hole he's in.
So in other words, Gary hung up on him.
He's calling back. You can join us as well, streaming on the YouTubes and the Facebooks at 844-967-2789. Scott Walker going back to, work for Trump now? Is it too harsh to call him a bitch, Crudy? Now, how does that...
I don't know if he's Donald Trump's bitch. I always really envision him more as Diane Hendricks' bitch.
Well, it's certainly cashing those checks.
She's the sugar mama. She's probably paying the freight right now.
Trump's going to be telling him what to do. And he was what? The conservative fighter against Trump. Now you're endorsing him. Do you not then endorse everything he does?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, but he says no.
When he's heading up the man's campaign.
The good things. I don't endorse the bad things.
How is he going to pull the Paul Ryan, the Scott Walker, the typical, true conservative answer when asked or posed a tough question about Donald Trump and his most recent outrage or tweet or whatever the case may be? Oh, I was completely unaware.
I didn't know.
That's not going to be a plausible answer when you're heading up the man's campaign committee.
I'm going to have to punt on that one.
844-967-2789. Let's get to him. Wisco Paul. Rhymes with build that wall. How you doing, Paul?
Oh, I'm here. Are you there?
We're here.
Welcome back, Paul.
Where else would we be, Paul?
I don't know. Hey, Jake from Milwaukee called in one day and he said, he'll never vote for any of the Republicans or Voss and whatever. Neither will I. But sometimes you would hope they would do the right thing. Is it true that Voss just hired a bunch of former Walker administrative people to help him down at the assembly to the tune of $300,000. That's what I was told today, and if that's true, I'm just totally disgusted with that. So
why would that even disgust you, Paul? That's just business as usual. It's the game of politics. All these people need jobs. I mean, once you leave the administration, how you cash in a check? Scott Walker needs a job. I mean, he's lucky he's not Robin Voss's bitch right now.
All right, Paul.
I guess we lost Paul. I left him speechless.
844-967-2789. But we do see that, administrations turn over, and all of a sudden all those folks that were in those jobs, qualified or not, the checks stop coming. So, they're all part of the big gang, man. Help a brother out. They'll all jump in somewhere.
Let's take one more quick call before our first break. And our first guest of the day, again, Wisconsin State Rep Jimmy Anderson at 2:30. Pete from Milwaukee right now, live via phone. Hey, Pete, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing today?
Awesome. Thank you.
Always well, sir.
Well, it looks like Scott Walker is a real leader because, he can follow the breadcrumbs to the money trail, and that's all he can do. If you're not paying him, from the big donors, he doesn't know how to be a leader. He can't make decisions about things. He has to always think over things for a long time. And
that's the saddest part. I'm not even sure it's a paid position, more like an internship, if you will. He's got to trade up before he can get paid.
That's true. And, if Walker is actually doing this, I think it's a bad sign for Trump. He's not going to do very well if Walker is leading his situation.
Well, I don't know who looks worse in their judgment. Is it Keith Ripp and Frank Lassay for joining the Walker administration, soon to be cast out baby with the bathwater? Or is it Scott Walker getting on the Trump-tanic?
The Trump train.
I mean, I think he might be nationally the first re-election campaign committee chair I've heard announced nationally. It's not even a paying gig. The man's just trying to justify his existence at this point. Kind of like that.
Yeah, it's sad. It really is. There's a guy who always knocks working people, and he just doesn't want to do any of that himself.
He has no skills.
He walks around in a suit with the best of them, Pete. Thanks for the call, man. What are the skills? Public speaking, public lying, but he never comes on this show.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. We got to find guests joining this show next. He is Wisconsin State Rep Jimmy Anderson. New lawsuit, open meetings. And did the Republicans violate his rights during the lame duck? We'll come back. State Rep Jimmy Anderson, Devil's Advocates. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
They hire usually good people.
Having a great time.
Now go home and get your f***ing shine box.
The Devil's Advocates, where there's always time for Scott Walker bashing.
Welcome to our good buddy, Congressman Mark Pocan. Mark, in some small part, this little radio product, the entire rationale for buying a radio station was opposition to Scott Walker. One person's telling me, be humble, Crudy. Take a day and just be humble. And another person's telling me, no, dance on Scott Walker's grave. So, Congressman, I've always admired your sage advice. Sir, what should I do? How should I react to this?
We should waltz, we should polka, and we should two-step. We should be dancing on this right now. To your credit, and I do want to give you guys credit. In Milwaukee, we have seen a shift, especially the suburban areas, from when we had just conservative radio to having you guys there. We have seen a shift in that area, and that's important because I think when people hear ideas, we do better. And I want to thank you for being there and doing what you do.
Hashtag Walker bashing.
Bye, Felicia.
Well, I'm going to take a nice long rest now. I can stop rolling over in my grave now that Walker is no longer governor. Thank you, Real Resistance Radio.
For over 2 decades, Linda Smallpage, owner of Boutique Photographer, has been the woman behind the lens creating images of Milwaukee area families and business owners. Specializing in photographing people, she is uniquely talented at capturing character. Published in Milwaukee Magazine with 38 full pages of her work on the faces of Milwaukee, she's also featured as a successful Milwaukee portrait photographer. Located in Whitefish Bay, Linda offers studio and location work throughout Southeast Wisconsin for commercial headshots, brand imaging, business portfolio, nonprofits, and playful family portraits. Visit boutiquephotographer.com to connect with your Milwaukee photographer, Linda Smallpage, or look for her link in our sponsor page. Boutique Photographer, photographing people at work, play, and in love, and sometimes dogs. To book your photo shoot or for more information, go to boutiquephotographer.com. That's boutiquephotographer.com. Tell her Real Resistance Radio sent you.
Have you outgrown your house? Are you sick of apartment living? Not ready to buy but know you need to move? Hi folks, this is Tom Hartman for CCL Management in Middleton. You should consider moving up to one of the finer rental homes CCL Management represents. Unique houses and condos, always clean, most are pet friendly. Visit cclmanagement.com today to find your new home. CCL Management, Dane County's premier leasing and property management company.
Call CCL Management at 833-0009. That's 833-0009 or visit cclmanagement.com today.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. Done. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
5 9s, your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. The League of Women Voters and 2 other groups advocating for civil rights and the disabled have filed a lawsuit to invalidate the lame duck Republican laws that would restrict the powers of Wisconsin's new governor and attorney general. A bipartisan panel of state lawmakers is proposing several measures that would significantly increase funding for Wisconsin's public schools. And 2 African-American ministers who say they were racially profiled on their way home from a fishing trip last year are suing Waukesha County and 2 sheriff's deputies saying their civil rights were violated. Outside tonight, mostly cloudy, lows in the upper teens. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, highs in the mid-30s. Saturday, a chance of snow with highs in the low 30s. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
The Devil's Advocates, radio for the 99%.
It's over and I feel fine. Nothing you can say is gonna change my mind. Waited and I waited the longest night. Nothing like the taste of sweet decline.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Got a fine guest expected shortly. Live via phone, State Rep Jimmy Anderson. Call me, Jimmy, 844-967-2789. In the meantime, that works out nicely. We do have a caller holding. It's Aunt Kathy. Aunt Kathy, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates. How you been?
I'm fine. I just stepped out of my car for a second. I am ready to bash Walker.
All right, hashtag Walker bashing. Let's hear it, Aunt Kathy.
Bring it, Aunt Kathy.
I'm upset that he supposedly has purchased a condo.
Well, we don't know that he purchased it. We just know he's residing there.
Oh, okay.
Do you see the distinction?
Understand.
I think the man is.
Yeah.
I think the man is a. I'm not saying he's indigent, but I don't think he's got any real money. I don't think he has any real reserves, job prospects, future outlook. I mean, unless the man is collecting campaign contributions, either directly or for some illegally coordinating third-party group, I don't think the man really has any discernible skills, Kathy. I mean, no one's paying to see this man speak aloud.
Well, for one thing, to me, it's like, why didn't he go someplace in his favorite big W, Waukesha? He had all his parties in Waukesha. Never, even as county exec, going into the governor race. Don't you think he would have had a party at the Pfister or something? I'm sorry. As far as I'm concerned, that man should be living in Waukesha, not in Milwaukee County.
Hell, Aunt Kathy, that man might be living in a van down by the river pretty soon. Maybe Trump's there to help prop him up being the campaign chair here in the state of Wisconsin. But I'm not clear Trump's going to even get out of 2019. And, Diane Hendricks probably needs someone to help carry the duffel bags of cash around for her.
You know, whether it's Diane Hendricks's condo in downtown Milwaukee or whether it's some other snowbird Republican donor, he's living in someone else's home, much like he's done for the last 8 years.
Boo-hoo. Anyway, thanks for taking the call, guys.
All right. Thank you, Kathy.
Aunt Kathy, a fine caller. 844-967-2789. You can be like Aunt Kathy. Real quick, waiting for Jimmy Anderson, but let's jump into the reporting on this lawsuit. Mark Summerhouse, Fitchburg lawmaker who is paralyzed, says GOP assembly leaders broke law by excluding him from lame duck votes. A Fitchburg Democratic state lawmaker who is paralyzed from the chest down contends assembly Republican leaders broke state laws last month by not telling him when early morning votes would be held to enact a package of controversial laws during the lame duck session, and he's asking that those votes be voided as a consequence. Rep. Jimmy Anderson, Democrat Fitchburg, said in an interview with the State Journal this week that he will file a complaint Thursday with the Dane County District Attorney Ismail Ozan. But a conservative legal group, Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, often called WILDOM, said in a statement Wednesday that Anderson's complaint is baseless because the state Supreme Court previously held that courts cannot hear open meetings law complaints against the legislature. By filing the complaint, an advance copy of which was provided to the State Journal, Anderson said he is asking Ozan to file suit against Assembly GOP leaders, alleging they violated a provision of state open meetings law. It says that no duly elected or appointed member of the government body may be excluded from any meeting of such body. Anderson was not present for key votes on the controversial lame duck laws that he opposes, one of which curtailed the timeline for early voting and the powers of the governor and attorney general. He said that happened after he asked Assembly Republican leaders the night before the vote when it would be held, but got no answer. The offices of Assembly Speaker Robin Vos and Assembly Majority Leader Jim Stanicki did not respond Wednesday for requests for comments. Dom, it looks like we've got our eagerly anticipated guest, State Rep Jimmy Anderson. Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Well, Jimmy, we were just sharing some others reporting of what you've got going on. Jimmy, for the sake of the audience, tell them, why do you think you were excluded from an open meetings? How did this amount to an exclusion, sir?
Right. So, I mean, I think we can all remember that night was being definitely out of the ordinary. The legislature was supposed to begin the session about 2 p.m. on December 4th. I was there on the floor waiting to debate the bills, and my constituents were really upset about the legislation. So I was, really fired up that day, and was sitting there for about 2-3 hours, and nothing was happening. And all of a sudden, about 10 p.m. came rolling around, and I had to let Democratic leadership know that I was unfortunately unable to stay because it was not just a health risk, but there was a lot of issues surrounding my disability that prevented me from being able to stay. And so come to find out that the actual proceedings didn't start until about 4 a.m., which was crazy in itself, but also that they had only given us about 10 minutes of notice to be able to be on the floor. And again, issues around my disability prevented me from being able to attend. And so, Republicans in the leadership definitely manipulated the process in order to make it impossible for me to be able to attend the proceedings.
Now, Jimmy, if I understand correctly, your confinement to a wheelchair limits your ability to effectively do work, be on the floor, be out in public for more than 16 hours at a time. And you did ask Republican leaders like Robin Vos, hey, when's the vote going to be? You wanted to participate. You wanted to do your job as a state lawmaker. Does and I assume if you're filing suit here or seeking suit to be filed by the Dane County District Attorney, Jimmy, I think you feel like you've reached that threshold, the fact that they would not be forthcoming. Is there failure to give you any sort of window of time? What do you think is the triggering mechanism? What allows you to reach that threshold, sir?
Yeah, well, so there was not only that, but there was a previous incident where I wasn't able to attend a vote, and I had reached out to Democratic leadership to let them know, hey, without appropriate notice, I'm not able to attend these kinds of votes. You need to be able to provide me with that notice. And they went to Republican leadership to let them know that when you do these kinds of last-minute votes, it makes it impossible for Jimmy to be able to participate. And so they were well aware of what their responsibilities were, what I feel that they owed me to be able to properly accommodate me, so that way I could properly represent my district. And so that day, there can be no question that they knew what they were doing. And not only that, but like you said, I had reached out to Representative Steineke to let him know that, hey, I'm having some problems here. I need to be able to coordinate for example, my home health assistance. And hopefully, I was hoping that would remind them of the previous time that they excluded me. And unfortunately, they kind of just brushed me off. And so at that point, I felt that they had gone too far, and that's why I'm looking for, hopefully for the courts to be able to not just nullify the entire power grab, but more importantly, to shine a light on this issue, because I'm sure there's lots of people out there with disabilities who are interested in running for office, and I want to make sure that they have the opportunity to do so.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Real Resistance Radio. Wisconsin State Rep Jimmy Anderson joins us on the phone. Jimmy, do you make a distinction because of your disability versus just not giving notice perhaps to a legislator who does not have a disability? Does that bring this into a different realm legally, in your opinion, sir?
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is like the statute itself that I'm alluding to has never been adjudicated, and it's because, I mean, it makes sense. In no other instance would you find a legislator excluded because they have the ability to walk upstairs or go into a room, or, I mean, they've never had to deal with these kinds of issues. But, if there was a legislator who was deaf, for instance, and they refused to provide that individual with someone that could do sign language, I'm sure that they would also feel excluded from the proceedings. And so, what's really interesting is that within the open meetings laws themselves, they specifically talk about physical barriers and being able to provide assistance to people with physical disabilities. And so it's very obvious that these laws were in part created to make sure that people had access to the legislature, not just from a physical standpoint, but from a technical standpoint as well.
Jimmy, the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, a conservative legal group, says that there's no merit. Quote from that organization: courts will not review whether the legislature followed its own rules or procedural statutes. I guess because of the separations of powers issue. Our pal Bill Leaders from the Wisconsin Freedom of Information Council agrees that they did in fact conclude the courts do not have jurisdiction over how the courts seek to interpret the open meetings law, according to the reports of Mark Sommerhauser at the Wisconsin State Journal. So I guess my question is, Jimmy, if that's the case, what kind of redress are you hoping for?
So I think that there's one important caveat there, is that the court basically said that there's no way for them to redress it unless it reaches the level of a constitutional violation. And I think that there are questions as to whether or not there are equal protections under the first Article 1, Section 1 of the Wisconsin Constitution. And there's also a question as to whether or not my district was disenfranchised, right? The people of the 47th Assembly District voted for me, wheelchair and all. And so they ought to be able to have the opportunity to have me voice their concerns on the assembly floor. And so I do think that there's some constitutional questions that need to be addressed. But I will say that I also plan on also filing a separate lawsuit under the ADA. And that's where we hope to be able to find or at least from that lawsuit is where we hope to be able to force the legislature to provide proper accommodations in the future.
Jimmy, final question. We've got Erin Grunze, Executive Director, League of Women Voters of Wisconsin, coming up next. Obviously, other lawsuits being filed today. Was there any coordination between your action and the actions of other groups, Jimmy, at least to timing?
No, actually, we were surprised to see that happened this morning. And to be honest, I felt a little bad because I didn't want to be stepping on anybody's toes, because obviously all of this is incredibly important, and that I wish them luck in being able to hold Robin Boss and this legislature accountable.
Well, State Rep Jimmy Anderson, we wish you luck. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Devil's Advocates. That was Wisconsin State Rep
Thank you.
Jimmy Anderson, a fine dim from Fitchburg. That's Madison Way. We've got Erin Grunze, Executive Director, League of Women Voters of Wisconsin, coming up next. You are listening to the Devil's Advocates. This is Real Resistance Radio, and there is a lawsuit to discuss to throw out the lame duck coup. We'll see what Erin Grunze has to say. Stick around, more Devil's Advocates.
And right now, just so it's clear, anyone with pre-existing conditions in the state of Wisconsin today is covered.
The manufactured outrage by the Democrats right now is hilarious.
All workers benefit from unions, as unions create the highest standard in wages, health and welfare, retirement security, and workplace protections. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters General Local 200. Your voice is your strength. The ability to build a stronger and better tomorrow begins today. Teamster Local 200 represents workers in numerous industries, and our team is ready to sit down with you and your co-workers to build your unified team. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us on Facebook or www.teamsterslocal200.com.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
On Election Day 2016, Madison lost its only progressive radio station, and I have taken strides every day since to bring Lefty Talk back to my hometown. I'm Crudy, an opinionated devil on the radio, but I'm also Crudy, the entrepreneur and a fiduciary to over 400 clients and their investment in real estate for the last decade. 2 years ago, I put my money where my mouth was, bought and built a radio station in Milwaukee. I've learned hard and expensive lessons, leaving me wiser and uniquely qualified to replicate the effort. I have the license. Now is the time to build an independent 24-hour FM talk radio station in Madison, a durable, rapid response platform that Republicans can't take away with a lame duck. Unique deferral of 2018 cap gains through Opportunity Zone investment possible.
Join me, accredited investors. Partner with a fellow progressive. Email crude at darnwi.com. This opportunity subject to an SEC 506C filing.
Girls, we run this mother.
The Devil's Advocates. Radio for nasty women everywhere.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. If you miss any of this fine program, please go to the website, realresistanceradio.com. You can download podcasts and interviews.
Dominic, we welcome another fine guest, Erin Grunze, Executive Director, League of Women Voters of Wisconsin. Erin, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates. Thank you so much for joining us on short notice.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Lawsuit today, and it's not just your organization. You're here on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Wisconsin, but also Disabilities Rights Wisconsin, Black Leaders Organizing for Communities, and 3 Wisconsin voters. On Thursday, you joined together in a lawsuit. What is the purpose of the lawsuit? What are you hoping to accomplish, Erin?
Right. So the lawsuit basically declares the bills that were passed during the extraordinary session in December of 2018 to be unconstitutional, and therefore they should be void and not enforceable. So the outcome that we're hoping will happen is that the bills will be found to be unconstitutional and therefore cannot be enacted.
And is it the actual logistics, the fact that this was a quote-unquote extraordinary session called by the legislature as opposed to the governor, is it your contention through this plaintiff suit that effectively there is no right for the Wisconsin legislature to call an extraordinary session? Question mark?
Yeah, so my understanding, and if you talk to the attorneys, they could go into the legal parts of it and explanations more thoroughly than I can, not being a lawyer myself, which is that in the Constitution, the state Constitution, there's a regular session and there is also noted the special session, as you said, the governor can call, but that the words extraordinary session or the legislature being able to call themselves into extraordinary session is not in the Wisconsin Constitution.
Now, overall, the laws passed during the lame duck, we've called it the lame duck coup here, especially those in regards to shutting down early voting. I mean, that was decided law, at least at one level of the federal courts. Does this suit also affect the voter ID suit by virtue of the fact that effectively, if this is not a constitutional session, if this extraordinary session is thrown out, all of these laws effectively would be thrown out? But in other ways, is there any other connection with the voter ID suit?
So the two parts that the league has noted in their part of the complaint deal with, as you said, the restrictions to the, as we refer to it as early voting, but it's in-person absentee voting, restricting that window. And then there's also within these bills that were passed during the lame duck session that impacts the temporary ID cards that the DOT administers and reducing the amount of time that those IDs are valid.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Real Resistance Radio. Erin Grunze, the Executive Director, League of Women Voters of Wisconsin, joins us on the phone. Erin, Molly Beck in the Journal Sentinel are reporting the Legislative Reference Bureau that lawmakers have convened extraordinary sessions going back to as far as 1980. This has been done in the past. There's some case to say, well, this has been done before, why can't we do it again? Any concerns that because of the historical context here that this may be challenged?
So I think, again, the lawyers would probably have a good perspective about the historical perspective and context of how this suit impacts what has happened in the past. As far as the league's concerned is, the ramifications of what are in these bills are what we're concerned about. So that's why what is listed in the complaint is directly related to the bills that were passed during this lame duck and extraordinary session.
And Erin, overall, I guess it speaks to motivation, perhaps not the legality of what was done, but the motivation of why it was done. What does your group think overall? And I don't mean to seem trite in asking this question, but overall, give your comment on these lame duck actions. Obviously, you're not suing because you're supportive.
Right, and so the league advocates for good government. It's part of our mission. It's what we do, and we came out against the bills as they were being revealed, and it was within a very limited time. Our organization is volunteer run, and it was many volunteers, countless hours, as well as my hours over the weekend because they were introduced on a late Friday night. Over the weekend, we tried to comb through them to find out what, in fact, is in the bills that talk about voting rights and how that will impact voters. It's part of the league's mission to advocate for good government, and the citizens elect officials to provide representative governance. But these, the lame duck hurry legislation that we witnessed in December, the league doesn't feel that that is good government, nor do we know if it's really representative because with these bills, there was no time for thoughtful consideration or debate or public input. And so the league has been vocal about how all of this has been handled, and these sweeping changes are not being made with consideration and even understanding the impacts that they'll have on Wisconsin voters and just Wisconsin citizens in general. And that's why there are other plaintiffs part of this bill talking about and are coming out against other parts of the bills that their organizations advocate for.
Well, Erin, normally if there was proposed legislation that Dominic and I thought, our audience should advocate against, or advocate for. We would encourage them to go to a public hearing and give testimony, be it written or oral. And of course, that was a laughable process in this lame duck, as you mentioned, rolled out on a Friday. They had a joint finance committee hearing, which really didn't start until later on Monday afternoon. And by Tuesday overnight, they were passing this. But how should people react? How should people get involved? People want to do something. Erin, what would you tell people to do now that these laws have been passed? Everyone can't file a lawsuit, but how should people get involved?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple points of involvement that people can take. If they're not already, they should be looking towards our spring elections that we have coming up. We have many local races that will likely have primaries in February. Then we will have Supreme Court and other court races added to the ballots in April. And so, individuals should be educating themselves about those races and what those offices mean to them. You're right, attending hearings, getting in with organizations that do advocate on your issue's behalf is another great way. Joining the league, we have a legislative committee that's very active in tracking bills and trying to understand and get that information out to our members and residents of Wisconsin so they understand exactly what these bills mean to their lives and how that legislation will impact them directly. But yeah, making contact, and you don't need to show up at a hearing. That might be really intimidating to some people. But grabbing a pen, writing a letter, shooting off an email, making a phone call, any way you can to connect with your representatives who are there to govern on your behalf. They should know how you feel about what they're doing, whether it's like you mentioned, for or against.
Erin, last question. State courts, the venue that has been chosen here, we've got about a minute left. My concern is that you don't quite get a fair hearing once you get above the appellate level. The Wisconsin Supreme Court, any concern that they might already have a foregone partisan conclusion if this lawsuit gets that high?
No, I think the courts are just going to have to weigh, what's being presented and what the state constitution intended for how the representatives are meant to govern the state and what kind of precedent we want to set for sessions moving into the future. So I hope they'll take all that into consideration and how we want to govern ourselves.
Erin Grunze, Executive Director, League of Women Voters of Wisconsin, thank you so much for joining us here on the Devil's Advocates today.
Yeah, thanks, Mike and Dom.
Thank you, Erin.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. Phone lines open, going to hour 2, turning back to the national headlines. Donald Trump taking a little trip to the border. Phone lines open, as I mentioned, 844-967-2789.
Will there be a lawsuit? Yeah, probably.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. It's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Cohen testimony, border wall debate. I'm Mike Moss.
House Democrats have begun to intensify their scrutiny into the 2016 election. Correspondent Manu Raju has the breaking details from Capitol Hill.
Michael Cohen, the president's former lawyer, longtime fixer, has agreed to testify before the House Oversight and Reform Committee on February 7th. This is according to Elijah Cummings, the chairman of the committee, releasing a statement saying that Cohen will testify before this committee.
Cohen has admitted to lying in prior congressional testimony in the Russia investigation. Among other things, lawmakers will seek to learn what he lied about and why he lied. Cohen has also agreed to testify before the House Intelligence Committee. The Attorney General of Texas wants the federal government to give the state the money to build more border wall.
I thought that was not the worst idea I've ever heard, although I still think I could do it cheaper than you. I still think I could do it. But I do like the idea, and we're going to look at a couple of ways of doing it where you guys get it up. You do things very well in Texas.
President Trump is in McAllen, Texas today, visiting the southern border and lobbying for congressional funding for building more border wall. Back in Washington, J. David Cox, the head of the American Federation of Government Employees, led a rally against the shutdown.
Hey, brothers and sisters, they were elected to do a job, and by damn, they need to do it!
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi today accused the president of staging the White House negotiating session, which he walked out of yesterday. Navy Lieutenant Randolph Prince has been sentenced to more than 4 years in prison for helping to swindle the government out of $2.7 million in order to fund his high-stakes poker habit and purchase luxury items. On Wall Street, the Dow is up 120, S&P up 11 points. I'm Mike Moore.
On Election Day 2016, Madison lost its only progressive radio station, and I've taken strides every day since to bring Lefty Talk back to my hometown. I'm Crudy, an opinionated devil on the radio, but I'm also Crudy, the entrepreneur and a fiduciary to over 400 clients and their investment in real estate for the last decade. 2 years ago, I put my money where my mouth was, bought and built a radio station in Milwaukee. I've learned hard and expensive lessons, leaving me wiser and uniquely qualified to replicate the effort. I have the license. Now is the time to build an independent 24-hour FM talk radio station in Madison, a durable, rapid response platform that Republicans can't take away with a lame duck. Unique deferral of 2018 cap gains through Opportunity Zone investment possible. Join me, accredited investors. Partner with a fellow progressive. Email crude@darnwi.com. This opportunity subject to an SEC 506C filing.
7-6.
A white supremacist group is planning a weekend rally in New Jersey.
Palmer Square sits across the street from Princeton University and the historic main gates to the campus. It may be the site of a white nationalist rally this weekend. A group calling itself New Jersey European Heritage Association distributed flyers saying they would hold a march and rally in the center of Princeton on Saturday. The group puts out literature referencing a white genocide. It's not clear how many people, if any, will show up, but the local police department said they'll be out in force to prevent any altercations from taking place. Princeton's mayor wrote on her social media accounts urging counter-protesters to remain peaceful. I'm Steve Kastenbaum.
Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin tells Congress the administration will keep tight control on Russian companies linked to Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska, despite last month's decision to ease sanctions on his firms. I'm Mike Moss.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
For real Resistance Radio, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Ira Robbins, the former Wauwatosa police officer who became a private investigator and fought for decades to clear the name of convicted killer and former Milwaukee police officer Lori Bembenek, died yesterday after an apparent heart attack at his home. Robbins was 77 years old. The Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association is facing a shortage of referees and is asking parents to have more respect for the officials in an effort to keep current referees from leaving their positions. And the Packers introduced their new head coach yesterday. Matt LaFleur is now the 15th head coach in franchise history. Outside tonight, mostly cloudy, lows in the upper teens. Mostly cloudy tomorrow, highs in the mid-30s. Saturday, a chance of snow with highs in the low 30s. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. I want to thank our most recent guests. They include Wisconsin State Rep Jimmy Anderson. Thank you, sir. And Erin Grunze, Executive Director, League of Women Voters of Wisconsin. Thank you to both of our fine guests from the last hour. Dom, I want to start this hour with a little good news. I've got a further justification for impeaching that MFer.
How many justifications do we need?
Just one legal one. Anyways, here we go. I'm reading from the body of a Raw Story piece. Trump's demand for an appropriation. Let's not forget, Trump shutting down the government really in demand for cash. And the power of the purse does not lie with the chief executive. In fact, it lies with the Congress. And how do we know this? The Constitution spelled it out very clearly. Trump's demand for an appropriation from Congress because of a security crisis on the border was anticipated by the drafters of the Constitution. They specifically refused to combine the power of the purse with the role of the commander-in-chief. And in parentheticals, it reads, this, after all, was the specific grievance against the King of England that sparked the American Revolution itself. I read on from the Raw Story, Dom, my favorite source. Worse, in shutting down the government to extort an appropriation he is not entitled to, Trump is violating his oath of office and breaching one of his core fiduciary duties to, and this is a quote, Dom, take care that the laws be faithfully executed, end quote. Obviously, a shutdown of 1/3 of the government for months or even years will make the execution of many laws utterly impossible, particularly since the Department of Justice is one of the shuttered agencies. Trump cannot assert that he must shut down the DOJ. The Democrats have passed an appropriation for that department, to which he concedes he has no objection. He is merely trying to use the shutdown as blackmail to force Congress to fund the wall, or at least however much of it can be built for $5 billion, and taking as our source the very Federalist Society from which Trump gets his judicial appointee punch list. Breach of fiduciary duty is a key standard for the misdemeanors the Constitution cites, along with criminal acts, as grounds for impeaching the MFer.
Hashtag impeach the MF.
This piece, Carl Pope, originally published at the Salon.com. I found it at the Raw Story. Checkmate. The shutdown is an impeachable offense if Trump vetoes a bill to reopen the government. Well, Dom, he's not going to have a problem with that, although Nancy Pelosi and the boys and girls, now the Dems in control of the House of Representatives, although they have passed several bills onto their colleagues over on the Senate side to reopen the government. The Hill.com is reporting Mitch McConnell's having no part. He is blocking those bills from coming to the Senate floor. Well, you don't have to veto it if Mitch McConnell is a willing co-conspirator.
Perhaps another one of Trump's bitches. Senate Majority Leader McConnell on Thursday blocked 2 House-passed funding bills that would reopen the federal government. Senators Chris Van Hollen and Ben Cardin, surrounded by roughly 24 of their Senate Democratic colleagues, tried to get consent to bring up a bill that would fund the Department of Homeland Security through February 8th, as well as a separate package that would fund the remaining agencies without current year appropriations through September 30th. But McConnell objected, arguing that there would be show votes and saying that he and Minority Leader Charles Schumer made an explicit commitment to avoid such votes. McConnell said the last thing we need to do right now is trade pointless, absolutely pointless, show votes back and forth across the aisle, McConnell said. Under Senate rules, any senator can try to force a vote or pass a bill, but any one senator can block them. The attempt by Democrats to pass the House bills comes as the partial government shutdown, which is impacting roughly a quarter of the federal government and is in its 20th day, is poised to break a record this weekend as the longest shutdown ever.
Trump's number one.
Number one. Talks between congressional leadership and Donald Trump appear to be derailed. With Trump walking out of the meeting yesterday, McConnell has pledged he will not bring up a bill that Trump doesn't support. And here's the point, McConnell, what are you talking about? Separate and co-equal branches? You don't have to do a damn thing. And when people start, really affecting people, when they don't get checked, when 800,000 people are unpaid, there's going to be pressure. McConnell, you don't have to bend
Hell
to
to
his
pay,
well.
if you will.
Bring it up for a vote if the Republicans agree and send it to the president. If he vetoes it, then override his veto.
What, and set up the President of the United States of America for impeachment? Because it's the action of the veto. His failure, his refusal to reopen the government would be the triggering mechanism
Well, listen, I understand,
of the impeachment.
But he has...
Potentially.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I mean, he has the option to not send a bill he doesn't like. I mean, say everything's in there, the numbers are
Well,
right.
he doesn't have the
but
option to shut down the federal government.
They put in some sort of poison pill, and some president doesn't want to sign it. Well, of course, they can override that. That's the point. That's why we have this separation of powers that we do. The Congress can override it.
But understand, what Trump is effectively doing is stating his motive publicly. I'm holding you hostage, America. I am a terrorist, and if you don't give me $5.7 billion, I'm going to shut down the government. I'm going to do real harm. I'm not going to pay the employees. He does not have it within his fiduciary ability to do what is in the best interest of the American people per his oath and the Constitution of the freaking country.
Come on, man. This is Trump we're talking about. Oath? What oath? Has there ever been an oath that this guy took that he actually followed up with? Certainly not a marriage oath. We have some sound of the Putin...
Wait. Speaking of...
What?
Trump. My understanding yesterday, even Nancy Pelosi speculating it was a show meeting, right? The great
Today
negotiator.
she came out and said,
the art of the deal. This man.
Yesterday's meeting was all show.
Do you know he's got a habit of making a big public scene of walking out of meetings publicly? You know when he first did it? His first divorce trial.
Yeah.
Publicly made a spectacle of himself, stomping out of the courtroom. Or negotiating, as he would call it.
The greatest negotiator ever.
Nobody knows more about trade than me.
Just ask him. Let's hear some sound of the fraudster president. Yes, you will
Traitorous.
be tortured. Traitorous Russian.
Hashtag not my president, more
bastard.
like Putin's president.
Let's go cut number 80, Fancy Brian Trump. Never give up.
Wait.
Whoa.
No, that doesn't go with the rest of the sound. That's a separate clip from 2004. We'll save that till later. Let's start with cut 81.
Alrighty.
Donald Trump. Well, I tell you, Dom, he wants to declare a national emergency, an extra constitutional remedy, because otherwise he might have to reopen the government.
I'm not prepared to do that yet, but if I have to, I will. I have no doubt about it. I will.
Oh, I have no doubt he's itching to get there from here, Dom.
Any concerns that perhaps a Russian puppet just closed down 25% of the government, now is going to declare a national emergency? I mean, is that bothersome to anybody at all? Just curious. Republicans?
The authoritarian power grab that would imply. Well, the good news is it would probably reopen the government because there would probably be an injunction. It would be probably jammed into the courts immediately. And ultimately, Dom, I think this might be Donald Trump's only remedy. Pence today saying no wall, no closure of the shutdown, right?
Pence is complicit as well.
Well, they're all in on it, Dom. They're all in on it because they're all Trump's bitches at this point. They all bow to his will, be it Mitch McConnell, Mike Pence,
terrible.
Scott
For
Walker.
what
They're all bitches.
reason? For what possible reason? McConnell.
They fear him. They fear the power of
Why?
his
What? Come on.
crazy.
McConnell is the head of the Senate. He's the majority leader in the U.S. Senate. Are you kidding me?
Have you ever seen a courageous turtle? I mean, they mostly just crawl in their shell.
Oh, man, some of those snapping turtles are pretty damn mean.
Does Mitch McConnell look like a snapping turtle to you? Maybe his wife, Cho, maybe she's the snapper. But no, I don't see Mitch McConnell as a stand your ground and fight sort of guy.
Let's hear
Not
more.
unless it's, sticking it to the prior president on a Supreme Court nominee.
Oh,
then he stands his ground.
Then he's all brave, huh? But not this guy. It's really unbelievable. Let's hear some more Trump on the national emergency. 82.
Other presidents have used it, some fairly often. I have the absolute right to declare a national emergency.
I have the absolute right to declare you a moron, sir. It still doesn't accomplish much.
More on Trump, 83.
I haven't done it yet. I may do it. If this doesn't work out, probably I will do it. I would almost say definitely.
Between now...
I will maybe definitely do it.
Between now and the end of tomorrow night, Donald Trump will declare a national emergency. He will make an authoritarian power grab, but he will do so effectively to counteract the bad press he will get tomorrow when federal employees don't get paid.
And cut 84, please, Brian.
If we don't make a deal, I mean, I would say 100%, but I don't want to say 100% because maybe something else comes up.
Maybe he gets hit by a bus. I'm just saying. Nothing's 100%.
We'll have to wait and see what happens.
We'll see. Dominic, is Mexico writing the check?
I thought they were going to.
I thought I'd heard that promise. Hadn't he stated that once or twice or 18 bazillion times on the campaign trail?
We've heard it live more than once.
It was lock her up and build the wall, and Mexico's going to pay for it.
But it wasn't always Mexico's going to pay for it. Like, that came on at some point, and then it just, hell, look at the crowd. It's like,
and do you know who's going to pay for it? Mexico!
Oh, 100%. Let's hear some more Trump about Mexico paying for the wall. Cut 85.
When during the campaign, I would say Mexico's going to pay for it. Obviously, I never said this, and I never meant they're going to write out a check. I said they're going to pay for it.
Well, how else do you pay for something if you don't write out the check? Bartering?
Credit card?
Cash?
Sticking it to them through shrewd NAFTA negotiations.
Well, come on. What a crock. And if that's the case, if the U.S. saves money, I don't got this new trade negotiation has not been approved by Congress, number one. So there's no dollars being saved.
The new NAFTA?
The new NAFTA. There's no dollars being saved. And if there were dollars being saved and then those savings were allocated to another expense, well, then they're really not. That's our dollars. Those dollars could go into, I don't know, infrastructure, education, the military, Republicans.
Well, that's okay. Trump's offsetting it all with all the tariffs we're collecting from China.
Oh, yeah, we're getting flush, huh?
Also, let's just call it a false statement made by the President of the United States.
What? Another one? Or just the
fact
general,
we're not actually collecting tariffs from China either. Mexico ain't going to pay for it. Trump ain't getting the wall, but he will declare a state of national emergency.
How can you declare a state of national emergency?
It's been done many times.
When there is no state of national emergency. I mean, the peak of immigration on the southern border was like the year 2000. We're a third of that now?
Even Trump's been president for 2 years, and it's only become a problem right now.
Right now?
Maybe
right
it
when
was
the Mueller investigation may be wrapping up at some point in the next couple of months?
I think the pre-midterm migrant caravan brought it all to a head.
Wow.
Come back with us, you caravan of gypsies, migrants, and progressives, and perhaps a few conservatives as well. We are the Devil's Advocates, and you can always join us on the phones, 844-967-2789. Donald Trump put the outside clothes on. He's got the white MAGA hat, riding in on that horse, Air Force One. Or maybe it was Mike Pence. You know, he is kind of a bitch. Come back with us, more Devil's Advocates.
We'll stand my ground, and I won't back down. No, I won't back down. Impeachment is about cleansing the office.
We're totally prepared for a very long shutdown.
Impeachment is about restoring honor and integrity to the office.
I am proud to shut down the government for border security.
Mexico is going to pay for the wall.
We're going to impeach the motherfucker.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Cancer surgery.
Here in the Badger
And really,
State,
we
we have our
still
own
don't know when the
expressions.
85-year-old
When we're looking to
is
go on
expected to
vacation, we
return.
say, well, let's go up north. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, president of Teamsters Local 200. Here in the Badger State, we also have another expression, union yes. The strength of the labor movement depends on elected officials here in Wisconsin and Washington, D.C. that support the values of working families that raise the standards for all. Give us a call at Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200. Be engaged.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes. Kim, you're on the air. How are you?
I came here from Dallas. I'm white. I was kind of amazed at how segregated Milwaukee is compared to Dallas. When people move to areas because they have, quote, better schools, I've kind of learned that's a dog whistle.
Yes, it is.
Especially up here.
It will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know.
Us liberals don't always see it this way, but we need to.
Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to noon, exclusively on Real Resistance Radio.
Stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas.
Grass-fed, locally raised, 100% organic. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we're back. Thanks for listening to Devil's Advocates Radio Show, Real Resistance Radio, streaming on the YouTubes and the Facebooks. You can get us on Twitter at Devil Radio, and the phone line's always open at 844-967-2789.
Dom, we're going to a piece from the Post. Jennifer Rubin, Texans to Trump. Forget about that wall. President Trump's visit to Texas for a photo op at the southern border reminds us that politics at the wall in Texas, a state that reelected Senator Ted Cruz by less than 3 points and flipped 2 House seats from Republican to Democratic, is not what Republicans would have you believe. A Quinnipiac University poll conducted in July showed Texas voters opposed building a wall by a margin of 51 to 45. Independents opposed the wall by a 9-point margin. Meanwhile, in April, Quinnipiac polled Texans signaled they wanted more border patrols, 60% to 37%. So don't build a wall. How about more border patrols? That's what Texans want. Rep. Will Hurd, a Republican, a member of Congress with the largest stretch of border in the district, strongly opposes the wall. His quote, I think building a wall, I think building a concrete structure, sea to shining sea, is the most expensive and least effective way to do border security, he said recently. In 2017, he told The Atlantic, again a quote, property rights are important to all Americans, especially Texans. And most of the property along the border has been privately held for a generation, end quote. He continued, back to quoting, many Texans I speak to think there are better ways to achieve border security without taking their lands. So you could expect a lengthy and expensive fight with these folks. Hurd escaped a blue wave in 18 midterms by only 926 votes. The Post reports that Texas officials, even Republicans, aren't the ones screaming for a wall. Litigation is still pending on behalf of some of those from whom land was taken after George W. Bush signed the Secured Fence Act in 2006. Again, a quote, border security is three things. It is barriers in places that are hard to control. It is technology, ground sensors, radar, drones, and other technological devices used to supplement the barriers, and then it's people. Senator John Cornyn, again a Republican from Texas, said this week on Fox News, it is really a combination of those three, and there is no one-size-fits-all prescription for the entire border. It is a quite diverse geography. Republican Governor Greg Abbott, in a statement to the Post, emphasized that the state has spent billions on border security, but he did not forcefully demand a border wall. Now, this is a very Trump-allied Texas governor. As Hurd warned, landowners have prepared for a fight should Trump proceed with the wall. Indeed, they've already started fighting against existing plans to extend fencing. The Associated Press reports that funding for 33 miles of fencing previously authorized by Congress would cut across private land in the Rio Grande Valley. Those in the way include owners who have lived in the valley for generations, environmental groups, and a 19th century chapel. As one might expect, many have hired lawyers who are preparing to fight the government if, as expected, it moves to seize their land through eminent domain. And if Trump proceeds with more than 215 new miles of wall, including 104 miles in the Rio Grande Valley and 55 miles near Laredo, the AP reports even a compromise solution to build steel slats, as Trump has suggested, or more fencing of the kind that Democrats have previously supported, would likely trigger more court cases and pushback in Texas.
Crudy, in conclusion, national Republicans, Trump flacks on Fox News, and Trump's shrinking base think that the wall is a great issue. In states where the wall would actually affect real people and their property, skepticism, if not downright hostility, is evident. In any event, get ready for a flurry of lawsuits from all sides and full employment for constitutional, property rights, and environmental lawyers. By the time this all gets worked out, Trump will be long gone from the White House.
Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Yeehaw!
Deep in the heart of Texas. Deep in the heart of Texas.
That wall will go up so fast, your head will spin. We're going to make them pay for that wall. It didn't work too well. The wall is dead.
5-9, your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod. Noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
Here's how you get them. If someone invites you for a cocktail, you bring them beer. If someone invites you to dinner, you bring a casserole. That's how you make friends. That's the Wisconsin way.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
When you shop Goodwill, you don't just bring home a vintage dress or cat lamp. You bring home so much good to your community because everything you buy funds local job training and more. Goodwill, bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Knowing your breasts can save your life. Go to knowyourgirls.org for the facts you need on breast health. Brought to you by Susan G. Komen and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates, where there's always time for Scott Walker bashing.
Welcome to our good buddy, Congressman Mark Pocan. Mark, in some small part, this little radio product, the entire rationale for buying a radio station was opposition to Scott Walker. One person's telling me, be humble, Crudy. Take a day and just be humble. And another person's telling me, no, dance on Scott Walker's grave. So, Congressman, I've always admired your sage advice, sir. What should I do? How should I react to this?
We should waltz, we should polka, and we should two-step. We should be dancing on this right now. To your credit, and I do want to give you guys credit. In Milwaukee, we have seen a shift, especially in the suburban areas, from when we had just conservative radio to having you guys there. We have seen a shift in that area, and that's important because I think when people hear ideas, we do better. And I want to thank you for being there and doing what you do.
Hashtag Walker bashing.
Bye, Felicia.
For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. The League of Women Voters and two other groups advocating for civil rights and the disabled have filed a lawsuit to invalidate the lame duck Republican laws that would restrict the powers of Wisconsin's new governor and attorney general. The groups say the laws should be voided because lawmakers illegally convened a legislative session to pass the lame duck Republican bills. The lawsuit challenges the constitutionality of extraordinary legislative sessions, which the Republicans used to pass the laws. This lawsuit is the second challenge filed against the restrictions on the governor's powers. Outside tonight, mostly cloudy, lows in the upper teens. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, highs in the mid-30s. Saturday, a chance of snow with highs in the low 30s. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
60% of the time, they're right every time. Dom and Cruz are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. It's a glorious Thursday afternoon here in Milwaukee. We're in the Brady Street studios. You can always join us here live via phone, 844-967-2789. Now, Dom, before we move on with the Trump sound from earlier today, I think we got to play a little Throwback Thursday blast from the past. A long-distance dedication going out to Donald Trump. It is Donald Trump speaking, giving words of encouragement to young grads, a graduation speech, if you will. And what is Donald Trump's newest plan? Build a wall. Big, giant concrete wall. Or steel. Or beads or something. But just build a wall, right? Because that will be the deterrent. That will keep the brown people out. And that'll keep the drugs out. And that will somehow make America great again. And of course, then allow him to release the hostages that are the American people. But here's what that very same man said back in 2004, Dom. A little Throwback Thursday special, if you would fancy, Brian. Play Donald Trump, sort of a kinder, gentler Donald Trump, cut 80.
Never, ever give up. Don't give up. Don't allow it to happen. If there's a concrete wall in front of you, go through it, go over it, go around it, but get to the other side of that wall.
And Dominic, that's just what they will do. That the wall offers very little deterrent overall. I mean, maybe a small delay in the process, but the wall's not keeping anybody out.
Well, and let's, the things that they are so concerned about, the drugs coming in. Of course, the drugs mostly come in through the legal points of entry, hidden in cars. I mean, if that is your concern, if you are so concerned about the drugs coming in from the southern border, then you should hire enough people to search every single car.
Currently, the ICE agents make $37, $40,000 a year, something like that. I think I heard that on a different Real Resistance radio product earlier today, and I heard a keen observation from our pal Sherwin. Sherwin pointed out, when the federal government is shut down, and yet you force the workers to show up anyways, right? They're broke. Some don't know how they're paying their rent. They're getting eviction notices.
They should just go have a garage sale.
Well, who's got lots of money typically? Drug smugglers, let's say. Do you think shutting down the government and failing to pay the border agents is somehow going to make us less vulnerable to penetration? Or do you think perhaps there's a few donkeys, a few smugglers out there right now just looking for a few broke Americans who might want a few bucks, let's say, to look the other way? With or without a wall, it's not going to matter. Because the wall is only as good as the people guarding the wall. And if the people guarding the wall are on the paycheck, if they're on the payroll of the drug cartels, the wall really offers us no protections. They can tunnel under. They can catapult over, or at least the drugs. I mean, hell, you can use drones, man. You don't even have to self-carry the drugs. Kilo at a time, just fly them over and dump them in a field.
No one's hauling drugs, with calves the size of cantaloupes, Curdy.
Hey, don't tell white nationalists, white supremacists loving Steve King.
We'll go there as well.
I don't know why anyone would have issue with calling themselves a white nationalist. Steve King queried today.
The drugs are coming in in vehicles and in trucks. That's how it gets here. The majority of it.
Cargo containers.
So and of course they don't really say that. It's like, we stopped so many people. Well, how many of those people were actually at the border? It's all these half-truths. And now they're throwing in crisis, like #crisis. Everyone's saying crisis. It's a crisis. Trump says it's a crisis. Kellyanne Conway, crisis. Pence, crisis. Huckabee Sanders, crisis. Where's the crisis? Just because you say it doesn't make it so. But Crudy, breaking news. I just got an email from Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson.
Oh, what's Ron say? Your buddy.
Senate Homeland Security Chairman Ron Johnson said Thursday he's working with colleagues to help ensure essential employees get a paycheck during the partial government shutdown that's now in its 20th day. And here's the quote.
What about the quote-unquote non-essential people? They don't get paid?
Yeah. I'm working on what I would consider just a bare-bones funding mechanism that will pay the essential employees, whether it's the Coast Guard, TSA, Customs and Border Protection, people involved in national security, Homeland Security, Johnson told Hill TV in an interview. Making sure that as long as parts of the government are shut down, the essential parts can remain open and are funded. Johnson said that he and some other colleagues are crafting a measure to get past this and keep pressure on the Democrats to start negotiating in good faith, which they are not doing right now. He added that while he fully supports Trump's fight for border wall funding, he worries about some real issues, some real problems that we should address regarding pay for federal employees who are required to work during the shutdown without getting paid.
Now, briefly, let me interrupt you. Ron Johnson stood right where you are right now and told us, no, the wall, that's not really a wall. More of a virtual wall. Drones, high tech. Well, that's not what Donald Trump is demanding. So why are you, Ron, allowing and going along with and seeking funding sources for federal employees? Because let's not forget, Nancy Pelosi has already provided them to you, the Republicans in the U.S. Senate. All you got to do is pass the bill and jam it on Trump's desk. He's got nothing better to do. The government's been shut down for 20 days. He'll sign it or he'll veto it. But either way, that's something more than shutting down the government over something you, Ron Johnson, don't even believe in. Ron doesn't want a wall. He He's not talking about a big concrete wall. Ron Johnson's not.
I'm going to talk to you about that, Ron.
Trump might be calling for a big steel concrete wall, but Ron Johnson doesn't even believe we need a wall.
Regarding the declaring of a national emergency, Johnson, pardon me, said he hopes it doesn't come to that, though he noted that he thinks the National Emergencies Act of 1976 gives the president the authority to order construction of a border wall. It specifically talks about immigration emergency, Johnson said, so I think he probably does have that right that Congress has given to him in 1976.
Build that wall and take that authoritarian just a half step to dictatorship, right? But Ron's down with that. He's going to extend that power, support the president. Ron, are you also Trump's bitch?
I have reached out to Ron's office. I'm hoping to book the senator on real soon, Crudy.
I'll mind my P's and Q's once you've got him locked down.
Perhaps you will have the opportunity to ask him that to his face. But Ron's quote, get past this and keep pressure on Democrats to start negotiating in good faith. Listen, the president doesn't get to dictate. That's not how it is. The president lost the election. I mean,
no, he didn't. He won. Got 62 million votes to Hillary's 65 million.
The midterms.
He won.
The midterms, Crudy. Come on.
They don't see it like that.
It doesn't matter if they see it like that or not. All you have to do is look into the House of Representatives. It is no longer under Republican control. So therefore, you lost your leverage. You don't have. If you had the folks, the Republicans in the back, they could have done it under Paul Ryan. Why not do it then? If it's such an emergency now, what has changed since Paul Ryan and the Republicans lost control? Other than Mueller's investigation continues to ramp up pressure upon Trump and his administration.
Well, you talk about the House Democrats. My understanding, Michael Cohen, the fixer, the Trump lawyer, well, he'll be giving public testimony before a House subcommittee.
In February, beginning of February, coming up real quick. Hell, probably in like 3 weeks, less than a month, Cohen will be sworn in and given testimony.
Dom, I've got a little presser from the Democratic National Committee. Who's going to pay for the wall? Mexa. Trump shut down the government to force taxpayers to fund an ineffective border wall that he promised Mexico would pay for, as Americans increasingly put the blame on Trump for the shutdown. His lies about paying for the border wall are unraveling. As the Washington Post reported today, they quote the Post, from his announcement speech to the election, he declared, talking about Donald Trump, 212 times that Mexico would pay for the wall, according to the comprehensive record of Trump's speeches, interviews, and tweets maintained at FactBase. That works out, Tom, to almost every 2 days during the campaign, Mexico refuses to pay for the wall, and Trump has engineered a government shutdown to try and force Congress to appropriate the necessary funds, subjecting himself to potential impeachment, because that ain't within his power either. But I suppose Ron will be fine with that. He's already said he is.
We're going to make them pay for that wall.
844-967-2789. Betsy, you are up. Thanks for calling today. Betsy, what's on your mind?
Well, I wanted you guys to check out, I heard that Trump's hotel there in Washington, the post office, inside there's a historical museum site, and you have to walk through the Trump, but they found money to keep that open, that little museum.
Betsy, that hasn't just bothered you. Fancy Brian's been talking about that story for 2 days. I've ignored him, but you're much nicer. It seems important when you say it, Betsy.
Wow. I'm sure it was. I mean, what else? I mean, just anything. I mean, it's just despicable. These people are really hurting right now, by the way. And our United States is pretty much very vulnerable right now with all that's going on. And maybe that's what this POTUS wants. Maybe he wants absolute chaos. So Mueller will have to, So I just don't. I just can't believe all this is happening to our country.
And Betsy, I don't mean to make light of these circumstances. We always appreciate your call, Betsy. Trump's going to build a wall and make you pay for it, Betsy. 844-967-2789. But I am not unaffected by this, Dom. You know I'm working through some SBA financing. Small Business Association, federal government financing.
Oh, yeah. How's that working out for you?
They won't issue a loan while the government is closed.
Seems like the best time to issue a loan.
So since before Christmas, for the last 20 days, any small business person trying to buy a business, refinance a small business association loan, I mean, you're very restricted. They are very restricted in what they can do. And quite frankly, I say with no glee, I am being personally affected by the governmental shutdown right now.
That's amazing.
Donald Trump, where's my freaking money? That's what I want to know.
Mexico is going to pay for
Apparently,
the wall.
Crudy, Mexico has your money. You have to go down there and get it.
Am I getting paid off in tamales, Dom? Pesos and tamales? That seems like it's going to take a long time.
844-967-2789. Let's get one more call in this segment. Jake from Milwaukee, you're up. What do you got today?
Hey, Jake.
Yeah. Hey, I've been thinking about the shutdown for a bit, and isn't it just kind of like the Republican, uber-libertarian wet dream of having no government and the government shut down?
I'll shut it down for years if necessary.
Shouldn't they like own it? Shouldn't like Ted Cruz and Ron Johnson stand up and say, I'm glad for small government and own it? Because, the Republicans had a chance to do this and keep the government open when they had all control and build a wall when they had all the control the last 2 years and they didn't do it. So, Ron Johnson, you could just stick it up yours because you are Trump's biatch. No one should ever trust you or even take you seriously. As my senator, I think you should just quit now and whatever. But the case is, this is their wet dream of having no government. And I just wish they would own it and be honest, and come up and say, I'm Mitch McConnell, I want no government, and I own this. So blah, 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 blah.
Hey, Jake, appreciate the call. Hopefully you remember it was about a year ago when Dianne Feinstein almost made Donald Trump her bitch at the White House that one day. And she made the proposition that there should be a clean DACA bill. And Trump went along with it.
He was like, oh, yeah, these aren't the droids you're looking for.
And now House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy had to interrupt him and say, no, sir, that's not what we're looking for at all. You're going along with the Democrats. This art of the deal stuff, Nancy Pelosi just came on the CNN moments ago. And she said, this walkout, this negotiating ploy of Donald Trump yesterday. Kabuki theater. This was a setup. This was all about the art of the deal and walking out and seeming strong. And what Donald Trump even say? Sometimes you got to walk out. And then the next day you call back and you start negotiating again.
Playing hard to get?
Well, Trump's down on the southern border, Dom. There'll be no negotiations today. But tomorrow's payday, or it should be, for federal employees. Hundreds of thousands of them. And they ain't getting paid tomorrow. And I don't care what sort of workaround Ron Johnson's trying to craft on behalf of border agents when non-essential employees get furloughed effectively, or more accurately, get told they must work, even though they're not getting paid. Good luck.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Good luck compelling me to work if you ain't going to pay me.
My arm, I think it's broken.
Come back with us. I think we got a little sicko going here on the Devil's Advocates radio show, but you can always join us. Someone will answer. Maybe Gary. 844-967-2789.
Welcome to a new kind of tension all across the alien mission. Everything is meant to be okay.
If there's a concrete wall in front of you, go through it, go over it, go around it, but get to the other side of that wall. We're going to make them pay for that wall.
What, you think you're some kind of Jedi waving your hand around like that?
Do you love public education? Do you want to support your schools? Then you should support the people who make them work. You should support teachers and their unions. Teachers' working conditions are students' learning conditions, and when the school bell rings, it is crucial that teachers do not check their rights at the door. The ability to organize and advocate around issues that improve the quality of a teacher's workplace will increase opportunities for students and make schools safer for everyone. Stand with teachers, stand with WEAC Region 7.
I went to pick up my boyfriend from work, and he had been drinking. He was upset with me. Suddenly, I was being strangled, and he slammed my head on the sidewalk. Every time I went into a courtroom, it just felt like I was pushed to the background.
No victim should be pushed aside and forgotten. Now legislators have a chance to help crime victims like Christina. Marcy's Law is a bipartisan bill that will update Wisconsin's constitution to strengthen the rights of victims, finally giving victims equal rights and protections. If the bill passes in January, voters will have a chance to approve it in April. Stand up for crime victims. Contact your legislators today and ask them to pass Marcy's Law right away.
Everybody can name a criminal's basic rights, but when asked what rights a victim has, I don't even think anybody would be able to say. That's why Marcy's Law is so important.
Paid for by Marcy's Law for Wisconsin, LLC.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
Ass, grass, or cash, nobody rides for free. Dom and Crute are the devil's advocates.
Who's gonna show you how to fly? Who's gonna call you on the lame dope smoking slacking little sucker you are?
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, Real Resistance Radio, streaming on YouTube and Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio. Phone lines open at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, you grabbed the microphone like you're some sort of rock and roller or something. Like you're the one singing it. It ain't you, babe.
Come on, Cher.
I've got a statement, this one from the DNC chair, Tom Perez, on Trump's border visit. Here's a quote. Tom Perez, our friend. Trump himself admitted this is nothing more than a useless publicity stunt. Yesterday, Democrats called on Trump once again to end his disastrous government shutdown. But instead of doing the right thing for the American people, Trump ended negotiations and threw a temper tantrum that would have been embarrassing even for a kindergartner, let alone the President of the United States. This isn't leadership. It's chaos. 800,000 workers remain furloughed or working without pay, including many who actually protect our security every day. And Americans, from small business owners, like me, to small-town home loan seekers, are suffering. The American people are demanding an end to the Trump shutdown. The House has already passed bipartisan legislation to end the Trump shutdown, and Democrats are ready to pass legislation to fund common sense, effective border security. The president should cancel his publicity stunt, stay in Washington, and end the shutdown crisis he created. All this lacks for is a hashtag Trump shutdown.
Let's get some more Trump sound out there. Going to jump around here, Brian, if you would. Cut number 86. Trump once again saying Mexico paying through the trade deal.
They are paying for it with the incredible deal we made called the United States, Mexico, and Canada USMCA deal. It's a trade deal.
So we're making it back on the exchange rate?
Let's hear more of what he had to say. 87.
They are paying for the wall indirectly many, many times over by the really great trade deal we just made.
I mean, we've heard that.
Does he believe what he says? Do you think?
No, he's the huckster. I mean,
the grifter in chief.
If you say it with confidence, it must be true.
Greatest radio show ever. You're listening to the Devil's Advocates.
You know that's the truth. Here's one, Crudy. China.
How did China jump into this conversation?
They're way more honorable than the opposition and easier to deal with. Let's do 88.
I think that China is actually much easier to deal with than the opposition party. I find China, frankly, in many ways, to be far more honorable than Crying Chuck and Nancy.
What's Nancy's nickname? He didn't, Crying Chuck and there's a word missing, an adjective to describe the Speaker of the House. I'm just saying, he's not being mean enough.
I think he's perhaps a little afraid of Nancy Pelosi. Donald Trump might be Nancy Pelosi's bitch.
Ah, nice. The Dems, they don't know how to make a deal. 90.
Dealing with these people is ridiculous. I don't know if they know how to make a deal.
I stomp and have a temper tantrum, and then Daddy usually gave me more money. That's how it works. I hold my breath until I get blue in the face, and then Daddy paid me. That always worked when Trump was growing up.
Oh, I'll tell you what. Why don't you hold your breath as long as you can, Trump? We'll see if someone gives you $5.6 billion.
He'd like to do that, but he's got bone spurs.
Media, Trump saying the media is coordinating with the Dems. Crudy, what are you doing? You coordinating with the Dems, man?
Come on, man. That is such a laughable statement. Certainly not I. The Dems don't even like me. They want to build a wall around Brady Street.
Let's hear the coordination from Trump. This should be good.
The media, which I call the opposition party, a lot of the media, in coordination with the Democrats, they're not talking about the Democrats folding. For instance, this morning a number of people came out and said you do need very strong border security, and that includes a wall or whatever it is.
Or whatever it is.
A wall, maybe some more border agents.
Now, if China is easier to deal with than the opposition party, and we, the American media, are the opposition party, by extension, is Trump saying we, the media, are harder to deal with than the Chinese?
Yes. That's exactly what he's saying. That's exactly what this man
I think
has.
He's got MSG on the brain.
This guy's got no respect for anybody with a different opinion than his, even if he changes his opinion from one day to the next. Talk about making a deal. We are in a quagmire, no doubt about it. I don't see how Trump outlasts the Dems in this scenario. There are bills right now that can open up the government. There are bills that the Republican senators already approved that will open up the government. I'm not clear how, as this continues to roll out and unfold, that the Democrats, while it's bad for everybody, bad for this country, how is it not worse for Trump than it is for the Democratic leadership?
Well, at least Trump can take consolation in one small thought. Jeff Bezos made a worse deal than Trump. Bezos, the owner of Amazon and the Washington Post, it's being widely reported today, is divorcing with no prenup, setting him up for a $137 billion divorce settlement.
You know why divorce costs so much? Because it's worth it.
Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. You could build like 5 walls for that. 844-967-2789. Phone lines open for you. Doesn't cost you nothing. Mexico will pay for it.
Mexico is going to pay for the wall.
Nobody knows more about trade than me.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. That's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald doesn't see the support for legalized medicinal marijuana, even though the 2018 midterm referendum in 11 counties and the city of Waukesha passed by over 79%. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608-266-5660. Tell him you support legalized medicinal marijuana.
No, I don't see it.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org. You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Cohen on the Hill. Shutdown Day 20. I'm Mike Moss. Former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen has agreed to testify before 2 congressional committees looking into the Russia investigation and hush money payments made to women alleging affairs with Donald Trump. Correspondent Linda Kenyon is on Capitol Hill.
The chairman of the House Oversight Committee says Cohen, who pleaded guilty to several crimes, including tax fraud and a campaign finance violation, will appear on February 7th. Chairman Elijah Cummings compares Cohen's appearance to that of John Dean in 1973. Dean was President Richard Nixon's White House counsel. He testified before a Senate committee about the Watergate scandal.
The president tells reporters he is not concerned about Cohen's testimony. Correspondent Pamela Brown reports the special counsel's Russia investigation is also examining what the president and his associates are telling the public.
Investigators have been focused on conflicting public statements by President Trump and his team that could be seen as an effort to influence witnesses and obstruct justice, according to people familiar with this investigation. The line of questioning adds to indications that Mueller views false or misleading public statements as obstruction of justice, and that could set up a potential flashpoint with the White House and the Trump legal team.
Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says the 20-day government shutdown over border wall funding is going nowhere.
I have never been more depressed about moving forward than right now. I just don't see a pathway forward. Somebody's got to get some energy to fix this.
President Trump visited the southern border in McAllen, Texas today.
We're certainly under attack by criminal gangs, by criminals themselves, by the human traffickers, and by drugs of all kinds. Much of it comes through the southern border.
Hundreds of thousands of federal workers will miss their first paychecks tomorrow. On Wall Street, the Dow up 122, S&P up 11.
Hi, Resistance Radio listeners. This is Kim Schrader, the president of the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association. We are the 4,600 educators who make Milwaukee's public education system possible. MTA members are the guardians of public education because every single day we are fighting to strengthen and protect public schools our students deserve. MTA educators are leading the fight in Milwaukee public schools for smaller class sizes, more recess, physical education, art, and music opportunities for every child in MPS. MTA educators are the champions for healthier school meals, positive discipline practices, equitable schools, and schools that partner with parents. MTA members are the guardians of public education, and we are proud to teach all children, regardless of their zip code. To learn more, follow us on Facebook at the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association.
Investors.
The world's oceans are warming up faster than previously believed. More from correspondent Jan Johnson.
Chinese scientists say they worry it's a sign the oceans are absorbing most of the heat cast off by climate-changing emissions. The Chinese Academy of Sciences relied on thousands of floating robots taking the temperature of the oceans and finding that the seas are warming up much faster than a global assessment predicted just a few years ago. The new study in the journal Science says that as the oceans grow warmer, they're also expanding, and that's helping to fuel more intense hurricanes and other extreme weather events. I'm Jan Johnson.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo delivered a scathing rebuke of the Obama administration's Mideast policies in a speech in Cairo today. He denounced former President Barack Obama, saying his policies were misguided and diminished America's role in the region. I'm Mike Moore.
The Devil's Advocates.
Tom Perez, chair of the Democratic National Committee. You know, Tom, I didn't know you had all the Badger roots. I got a little hashtag. I'd like to try it out on you. DNC MKE 2020, sir. What do you think, Milwaukee, for the DNC, Tom?
They are one of the cities that has expressed interest. Obviously, the new arena is going to be open and running by them. And I'm sure they will put forth a very, very credible package.
Well, Tom, it's nice that the stadium will be opening up, but also last year on the east side of Milwaukee, the Devil's Advocates and WRRD opened their stations on Brady Street.
Bring it home, Tom.
Wow. Amen. Well, I stayed up all night the night before my wedding, so I went out to a lot of watering holes not too far from there.
You're supposed to skip a night between the bachelor party and the wedding, sir.
I didn't get the memo. I wish we had done this interview 30 years ago.
Making radio great again.
For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. A bipartisan panel of state lawmakers is proposing several measures that would significantly increase funding for Wisconsin's public schools. The recommendations include increased spending on mental health services, special education, and high poverty students. The panel also recommends fulfilling the state's lapsed commitment to fund 2/3 of the cost of education. The recommendations by the panel mark a change for Republicans who've been focused on cutting taxes for businesses and the wealthy instead of funding education. And in a surprising move, the Brewers signed former Los Angeles Dodger Yasmani Grandal last night. The catcher will be the Brewers' highest paid player, signing a one-year deal for $18.25 million. Outside tonight, mostly cloudy, lows in the upper teens. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the 4 o'clock Thursday happy hour. I've cracked a cold one here in the studios. But I could not possibly top the sort of party and media style that Donald Trump did today at the border. What were his backdrops? I mean, I got a cold one, a little nicotine here, some jet fuel as well. I mean, I got all the essentials here at hand. But Donald Trump's got what? Sacks of cash and drugs?
CNN reporting Donald Trump, who spoke in front of a display of stacks of drugs, guns, and cash seized at points of entry, opened the event by praising Border Patrol agents as heroes. Stacks of drugs and cash and guns. It sounds like a party on the border.
I mean, Republicans often use what? Human props for the campaign stops. You know, we know Scott Walker had the welders come up that one year. But I don't know if that's appropriate. I mean, what are you, some small-town lawman trying to show off your latest, greatest bust?
Trump pledged that the U.S. will build a powerful steel barrier and slammed Republicans for calling the situation on the border a manufactured crisis. What's manufactured is the use of the word manufactured, he countered.
Trump said that?
Yeah.
What's manufactured is the word
manufactured. Yeah.
I know you are, but what am I?
Family members who lost loved ones also spoke and expressed support for the improvements on border security, including the wall, CNN reports. At the end, Homeland Security Secretary Christian Nielsen emphasized the crisis on the border and said that calling it manufactured is not only an insult to those who lost loved ones, but also it's an insult to our country. Now, let's just address this for a moment.
Yes, please do.
The opioid epidemic kills hundreds of people a day in this country.
Hundreds? More than 1,000 a day.
All right,
no,
specifically, I mean, drug overdoses, alcohol overdoses, gun deaths.
Well, if you threw nicotine deaths in there, you might get to thousands per day. But I don't want to be inaccurate.
Gun
that
deaths,
seems extremely high.
30,000 a year?
I thought opioid deaths, I thought it was something north of 50,000 last year in the United States. That would certainly be less than 1,000 per day, but still an extremely large and tragic number.
No question about it. Car accidents. How many people die on the roads every single year in this country?
Well, in the state of Wisconsin, I don't want to grab stats from Ask About Tragedy.
Just under my recollection, because they have them up on the overhead sometimes, the stats when we drive here on the state highways in Wisconsin, and just under one person, about 300 a year in the state of Wisconsin.
Are you
alone.
chastising me for having a beer at work? What are you doing exactly?
What I'm suggesting is that our existence causes death, no matter what, from accidents and from overdoses and from shootings.
Wow, this show's gone a harsh direction, man.
I'm just suggesting that if you're going to say that is a crisis, but I think what you need to do is qualify that. What does that mean? X amount of deaths. They're bringing up people who lost loved ones, and certainly our hearts go out to them as we do all the victims of, as we do to all the family members of victims of, drug trafficking and car accidents and war. So if you're going to say it's a crisis, don't you have to come up with some number, some way to explain it, to define it? And if whatever that definition is, you do not then also apply it to the other deaths and sorrowful things that we must deal with in this country on a regular basis, well, then there's really no crisis. Because if that definition fits other situations, which would be truly, by comparison, much greater crises, then this is just all an act. And we know it is.
You're all gonna die!
A note on the term crisis, CNN reports, part of the White House counsel's office review of declaring a national emergency has included laying the groundwork for a legal defense of the move, according to officials familiar with the matter. That has included advising the president's aides on ramping up the talk of the humanitarian and security crisis, a characterization that administration lawyers could use later in court to defend a national emergency. It's like hashtagging it, man. Then you go back and search for it.
Dom, I've gone back and searched the government's website, drugabuse.gov. Their reported statistics, opioid drug deaths in America, national opioid drug deaths, 63,632 in 2016, 72,306 in 2017. Of those, approximately 30,000 are from synthetic opioids like fentanyl.
30,000 automobile fatalities in 2010. So about 30,000. I'm thinking gun deaths, not suicide not included, and I'll search it up here, also about the same.
Well, gun deaths, suicides included, something like 36,000 per annum. Wait, you don't trust me? You made me pull these morbid stats from my ass.
I just want to make sure we can pull these up. Yes, 36 deaths due to injury by firearms. So, in 2013, there were 73,000 non-fatal firearm injuries. So there you go.
Now, I didn't mean to get distracted, but what's the broader point?
So the point is, what is a crisis? Okay, they're planting the seed legally for crisis to declare a national emergency. If you look at some of these other very important issues, like guns, hey, you know what? Unfortunately, Crudy, we're probably due for about a mass shooting right about now. Statistically speaking, timing, it's about there. And what a tragic thought to think. But that's just the reality that we live in. There is a crisis. Is there not? And what if we had a Democratic president, then use that crisis to declare a national emergency and start what? I don't know, collecting
guns.
What do you say then, Republicans? Are you down with this kind of activity?
Well, I certainly understand the underlying thought that this is such a step beyond the pale. It might be the only way we reopen government. Giving Donald Trump this out, which would be the courts injuncting this emergency action. I mean, I'm not saying he's playing 3-level or 4-level or any level chess, but it might be his only out clause. He's looking for a victory. He's looking to act like he accomplished something. Well, I declared an emergency in those damn courts. I think, quite frankly, we're going to have to accept a state of emergency, a step towards dictatorship, as a step towards accomplishment. The way this man governs the nation, we have to look at that as a small victory. He finally had the courage to end the shutdown because that's effectively what I think it would do.
So let's walk through this for a
Because
moment.
otherwise he's just a loser.
So if his state of emergency is specifically because of let's call it an invasion of the southern border, immigration specifically, according to some of the conservative
drugs and
legal
rapists,
folks.
and I'm sure some very nice people.
If that is the case, so he starts building the wall? I mean, so is he taking land? I mean, what exactly happens? I mean, practically, physically, the very first day, emergency declare. Now what? You got a bunch of folks out with the
He goes
backhoes?
crowing on Hannity.
Okay, so he does
declares
that.
victory.
Does
mission accomplished.
But does he sign the legislation that's been offered and rejected by Mitch McConnell in the Senate that the House has already passed? That the same legislation the Senate Republicans have already passed. Does that now open up and flow through the process and get to his desk and sign it now that he has a state of emergency?
Well, first and foremost, he'd have a problem. It gets to his desk, and it turns out he gave all his pens away yesterday. Show props and all that kind of stuff. But assuming he has something to write with, they've acquired more pens, ordered more. Vistaprint.
From
something.
where? I mean, everything's closed.
Trump pens? You don't think Trump's got a guy for that?
He's going to go get some Sharpies.
Who cares what the means of signing? I mean, he's
right. So the
he's
point,
a monkey.
But does it,
in that regard, it doesn't matter
open
what
up
he
the government?
signs.
Does it open up the government
if they give him the wall?
No, if he declares a state of emergency.
I think it does. I think it does because it gives him something to declare victory on. I was that crazy. I did it. You Trump-loving, MAGA hat-wearing.
And now I'll sign the laws that were already passed. I mean, right? That's what he has to do to open up the government.
Yes,
through. I just want to be clear. Through the act.
So
of
no
declaring,
wall actually gets built under any circumstance. There's no actual victory here. It's a declared victory.
Does he tweet it?
It's
or is
an
it
optical
official?
victory.
Okay, but let's just walk through that. If he exercises, to exercise some sort of a presidential power in this state of emergency, does it only apply to the physical building and procuring of materials, et cetera, of the southern wall, or does it also say, hey, now I want all these
other powers.
I'm going to fund these bills or these agencies that had not been funded before.
I don't. The document Stephen Miller will draft for Trump to sign will purely be about building a wall and declaring a national emergency.
But that doesn't open up the government.
Maybe shutting off CNN, something of that sort. Right. That will be it. It will be constrained to what he thinks this is. I would like to think, because he knows they'll advise him. It's going immediately to the courts. But it's really about the optic of victory. And I think this will be Trump's only way out. He needs a way out. He desperately needs a victory, or to his own perception, because losing is not an option, right? And he's the art at the deal guy. And he gave him his best.
So how do you think
slam your fist on the table and march out, take your ball and go home?
How does the government open? By what process does the government open?
There'll be some continuing resolution that passes both chambers rapidly.
So the legislative
separately
process.
of the emergency thing. I think ultimately it has to be that way. I mean, otherwise,
can he just declare it so? He's got emergency powers.
Yes, but there are no actual emergency powers because there is no emergency in actuality. It'd be very hard to prove. I mean, his own governmental statistics are going to shoot him in the ass once again.
This is how dictators think. I got the power until you either tell me I don't or take it away from me. Prove me wrong. I'm going to do it and then worry about it later. Rather apologize than ask for permission.
I don't know if it's that urgent.
It's a crisis, Crudy. It's a crisis.
The crisis is when Michael Cohen is ready to testify. That's when Donald Trump will declare emergency. We'll come back. More Devil's Advocates. Join us, please. 844-967-2789. Real Resistance Radio.
We have to close down our government. We're building that wall.
You shut that thing down, and we are not going to be held responsible for whatever happens.
We'll build the wall. Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it.
Redzog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
All workers benefit from unions, as unions create the highest standard in wages, health and welfare, retirement security, and workplace protections. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters General Local 200. Your voice is your strength. The ability to build a stronger and better tomorrow begins today. Teamsters Local 200 represents workers in numerous industries, and our team is ready to sit down with you and your co-workers to build your unified team. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us on Facebook or www.teamsterslocal200.com.
Have you outgrown your house? Are you sick of apartment living? Not ready to buy but know you need to move? Hi folks, this is Tom Hartman for CCL Management in Middleton. You should consider moving up to one of the finer rental homes CCL Management represents. Unique houses and condos, always clean, most are pet friendly. Visit cclmanagement.com today to find your new home. CCL Management, Dane County's premier leasing and property management company.
Call CCL Management at 833-0009. That's 833-0009 or visit cclmanagement.com today.
It's a lot easier to measure how many times students use a semicolon correctly in an essay.
Educated educators talking education.
Than it is to measure how many wonderful ideas are in that essay.
Busted Pencils.
There is no teacher shortage.
With Dr. Tim Slecker.
There is a teacher exit.
Featuring Matt Damon's mom.
You want to know what my mom would say?
We've had an intrusion into education.
Busted Pencils Radio. Saturdays at 11 on Resistance Radio.
When they go low, we get high. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, Real Resistance Radio, streaming on YouTube and on the Facebook. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio. The party line always open. Talk or text 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I don't know how you both celebrate and yet somehow always remember to declare at the 420 break. You're amazing.
It's been lots of years of practice, Michael.
It's like a superpower for you.
The one thing I remember our pal.
Do you remember our phone number? Tell the people.
844-967-2789. Mark, you know the number. Thanks for calling. What do you got for us today?
Well, I don't need to know the number anymore. I put it on my speed dial, so I don't need to dial it each time.
You are right to do so. Glue your radio dial, put it on your speed dial, and then just make Dom and Krut like your homepage.
Well, what I'd like to know now is what we maybe need to be talking about is how much this shutdown is actually going to cost us, because it costs us money to not have the government open, because the infrastructure that's been damaged by the people not working, like the parks getting polluted and covered with litter, how much overtime are these folks going to have to put in once they finally do go back to work for those jobs that were declared non-essential?
Yeah.
One would think that garbage picking up used needles and stuff from the parks is something that should be considered essential services.
Mark, let's start by setting some ground rules. Do you think there is any circumstance under which the Democrats should give on the wall? I mean, Pence said today, you may not be privy, Dom and I think had this conversation off air. Pence said today there will be no trade for DACA. So they're not going to give the Dems DACA relief. Donald Trump's basically now playing chicken with this emergency claim. Is there any possible rational reason for the Democrats to give? Because, it's the good thing to do for the country, perhaps open the government, pay the people. But any way you see the Dems giving and justifying that in your mind?
Well, the only way they could justify it is that for the good of the people. But I mean, the sad part of it is that Trump and Pence do not care about the people. They care about themselves and their ever diminishing base, and the people be damned. That it's actually the crisis is actually happening because of the shutdown. I mean that is what's is stirring some crisis events here, because that there's emergencies that may need to be confronted.
Mark, but
small emergencies
let's
confronted with.
Let's not hyperconflate, though, because I think on individual family levels, yeah, there's going to be a lot of pain and some misery. But in terms of the overall, it's not the first time the government's been shut down. And yeah, it's going to cost us billions of dollars, probably more money than Donald Trump wanted allocated for this wall when all is said and done. And I have no doubt, once it becomes a big number, Trump's going to like seeing it climb. But ultimately, Mark, I don't know that we've had any major crises created by a partial government shutdown at this point. Now, if something crisis like happened, let's say some foodborne illness got through the FDA because the FDA people weren't on board, or the TSA, some terrorists got on an airplane, God forbid, because suddenly the terrorists realize we're vulnerable at our points of entry because, oh yeah, everyone's doing a sick out because they're not getting paid, then that might ratchet up to crisis mode, but I don't think we're there.
No, I agree with you there, but it is just that. And the ironic part of this is when those people finally do get paid, those that have been working and get their paychecks, because they'll probably just stick it in one paycheck, they'll get hit double on all their tax withholdings.
Well, I guess you got to change the withholdings then, Mark.
Well, they're mostly Democrats, the suckers that pay taxes.
But Trump also says that they mostly support him as well in what he's doing. How can both of those things be true?
Well, those are primarily those on the social mediums, his followers, Tom.
844-967-2789. Crudy, briefly, you mentioned Vice President Pence regarding making some sort of deal with the Dreamers. Quote the VP, when we get the resources that we need to build a wall and secure our border, this is a president that also wants to fix our broken immigration system. We believe the opportunity after the Supreme Court case will be the time to do that, Pence said, referring to the High Court's expected ruling on the DACA program. So that's off the table.
So no DACA solution. And I'm not clear that the courts are ruling on the constitutionality. Wow. He said, look over there. There's a shiny object. And suddenly I'm looking over there and trying to see, is there some validity to this point? I'm not clear, but there's no validity to this Trump shutdown. I don't care what Mike Pence says. If you're not even willing to trade DACA, if we can't come to a solution, because you've heard Crudy if you listen to the show, and you better every day, 3 hours a day, but you've heard me say, what if we just give the money, right? But that was also as a trade-off for DACA, 800,000 of maybe 2 million DACA recipients, or in trade for Trump's resignation. I'd take that as well. That'd be a better deal.
Why not both?
The art of the deal. It won't cost you a penny, Trump. Hell, I'll make sure Tammy Baldwin gets on board. I'll get a yes from both Ron and Tammy. All you got to do is give back the presidency, please. More devil's advocates. Call us, please, but only if you got something to say at 844-967-2789. I forget what I'm going to say.
Hey, you want to get high, man?
We're going to make them pay for that.
Ooh, I'm going to hit the pause button right there.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com. Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. That's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean. Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
On Election Day 2016, Madison lost its only progressive radio station, and I've taken strides every day since to bring Lefty Talk back to my hometown. I'm Crudy, an opinionated devil on the radio, but I'm also Crudy, the entrepreneur and a fiduciary to over 400 clients and their investment in real estate for the last decade. 2 years ago, I put my money where my mouth was, bought and built a radio station in Milwaukee. I've learned hard and expensive lessons, leaving me wiser and uniquely qualified to replicate the effort. I have the license. Now is the time to build an independent 24-hour FM talk radio station in Madison, a durable, rapid response platform that Republicans can't take away with a lame duck. Unique deferral of 2018 cap gains through Opportunity Zone investment possible. Join me, accredited investors, partner with a fellow progressive. Email crute@darnwi.com. This opportunity subject to an SEC 506C filing.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. That means it could be you, your best man, your worst man. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org to know where you stand. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
5 9s, your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. The League of Women Voters and 2 other groups advocating for civil rights and the disabled have filed a lawsuit to invalidate the lame duck Republican laws that would restrict the powers of Wisconsin's new governor and attorney general. A bipartisan panel of state lawmakers is proposing several measures that would significantly increase funding for Wisconsin's public schools. And 2 African-American ministers who say they were racially profiled on their way home from a fishing trip last year are suing Waukesha County and 2 sheriff's deputies saying their civil rights were violated. Outside tonight, mostly cloudy, lows in the upper teens. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, highs in the mid-30s. Saturday, a chance of snow with highs in the low 30s. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Dom, we've come a long, long way together. I'd like to praise you like I should.
Go ahead. I'll hold on for a minute.
844-967-2789. Before we get to the phones and Pizza Box Mike, be patient for just a moment. Dom, you found a headline during the break. This one.
Wow.
This one bears sharing.
It doesn't fill me with confidence. CNN reporting 11 minutes ago, Senator Lindsey Graham, a key Trump ally, is calling on the president to use emergency powers to fund the construction of a border wall or barrier. Adding later, I hope it works. Are you talking about the wall or the concept? What are you
talking about? We can all look in a mirror and find some blame somewhere.
Oh, yeah, dude. What?
You know, I feel that way almost every day when we get ready to do this radio show. We turn on the microphones and I think, I hope this works.
That's 844-967-2789. Time for some pizza.
It works best with the contributions of our fair audience.
That it does.
I would really question somebody's judgment if they couldn't figure this out.
Hey, Mike, welcome to the Devil's Advocates. What do you got for us today?
Well, I want to know why they don't lay off the Lindsey Grahams and the Mitch McConnells and even the MFer in chief when they say non-essential government employees.
No doubt
how are they
about
essential?
it.
Most of Trump's day is executive time watching Fox News up in the residence.
We watch these guys every day talk about what they're trying to do for Americans. Trying to do for us? You mean trying to finish us off? I see everything they do is non-essential and damaging to the rest of us.
Well, no question, Mike. I mean, the politicians should be the first ones, and all those folks should be the first ones to go without pay. Period.
Yeah, because without them, I don't think there'd be any poop flowing in the streets in D.C.
Well, would
right?
there be motivation? More motivation for them to solve the problem? It's one thing to feel the pain of your constituents. You know, you can talk about it, but, you know, when you've got a check every couple of weeks, it's a little less of an issue for you. But when it's you, well, hell, now you get it.
Hey, Mike, you know, there were
absolutely
17 new federal hires today. The White House hired 17 new attorneys on behalf of Donald Trump.
Right.
Just to fend off the House investigations, the subpoenas coming. Executive privilege, we're going to hear that a lot, I suspect.
And I'm assuming we foot the bill for those attorneys that defend him as well, right?
Oh, just you and I and all the other hard-working taxpayers, or as Trump would call us, the suckers.
Yeah. Well, now you know why I feel like I should never be given a parking ticket.
You know, I got one the other night when we were broadcasting on the square. You know, if Trump were in private practice, air quotes, you know, if he wasn't the president, he'd just be using foundational money to pay those legal fees.
Yeah, look, when they tried to get the GoFundMe for the wall or something, the first thing I thought of was, Christmas present for my kids. That's what Trump would use it for.
Michael, when you heard that Scott Walker is going to be the campaign chair for Donald Trump's reelection campaign in 2020 here in Wisconsin, what was the first non-profane thing that came to your mind?
Actually, all I did was, I'm not that surprised, to be honest with you. I mean, he's moving into the high-end district in Milwaukee when he couldn't even pay for the house that he had that wasn't, I guess, what you would call cosmopolitan.
Well, it's a condo, Mike, in Milwaukee, but I'm not clear it's a high-rise or high-end.
I don't give a rat's behind because I'm moving in. I'm sick and tired of living in a van down by the river.
Right.
You know, their plan B was a state van with Matt and Alex down by the river, Mike. The Milwaukee River.
Hey, somebody's always been paying his rent. As long as somebody will pay his rent, Scott Walker will do anything. He's so easy. Sleazy and easy.
Hey, Mike, he might be easy, but he ain't cheap. Thanks for the call, man. 844-967-2789.
Does he still get to collect per diem?
I don't think so.
You know, even the health insurance for his wife with the pre-existing condition, that's going to get kind of pricey.
Yeah, how does that work? Does he get, I mean, he's been there 8 years.
And two college-age boys that obviously come around the house quite a bit to eat out of the cupboards. Were we also keeping Matt and Alex in snacks?
Well, they were getting paid by the campaign for a while.
That doesn't mean they weren't eating out of mom and dad's cupboards.
Well, I'm sure as loving parents, they were providing for their children when they rolled around.
With Wisconsin state taxpayer dollars.
Well,
probably.
Technically. I mean, come on. How
just
else?
Had the chef whip some
Has Scott Walker lived on anything
up?
Other than Wisconsin state tax dollars?
Well, I don't bemoan him. The other day, $2.3 million over his entire career. Scott Walker is
goes quick, man. I'm just saying.
But when you're talking about a 25-year career, is $2.3 million really that much money? I mean, he was making less than $50,000 a year for most of that career. It was only the last couple of years when he was making $144,000 per as the governor. The last 8 years, I mean, outside of that, he's made over $1 million in the last 8 years. Other than that, the 17 years prior,
and he's got all the the high interest credit cards. Because even though if his credit was trashed,
well, it's supposed to be citizen lawmakers, right? That's the way it's always been. I don't bemoan the fact that Speaker Voss owns a popcorn factory, or that Tom Tiffany does tours up in Lake de Flambeau or wherever he does them. You know, everyone's got a day job, but Scott Walker never did. Politics is his morning, noon, and night job. It's either, you know, being the gubernator or the county executive or a state lawmaker.
No, running
or
for,
it's thinking about what the next job's going to be.
Let me break it down for you. Running for office is his full-time job. Doing anything in office, administrating, running any sort of government, doing the job of the office is his part-time job. The guy ran for president and worked, 15 minutes a week? Come on. What a great hourly rate. And again, Crudy, those are the W-2 numbers, the numbers that we know, talking about Governor Walker's, former Governor Scott Walker's, gross income over the last 10 years. What we don't know is what kind of hidden accounts he's got with dealing with folks like Foxconn.
I'm not clear that the only hidden accounts he had were Wisconsin Club for Growth and coordinating third-party groups, the Wisconsin Realtors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We've learned so much through the John Doe 2, but I don't think he ever had a good...
Maybe.
He never self-enriched, quote unquote, and I think that's how he always slept at night, always rationalized. Well, sure, I'm breaking a couple of campaign finance laws,
but I don't have an account in Cyprus.
Yes.
So he wasn't getting paid that way. But
God told
me I don't know.
I should be the governor of the state of Wisconsin, so I'm just doing God's will.
Let's get another caller
God's
in.
plan.
This segment, 844-967-2789. Johnson from Wisconsin. Welcome to the show. What do you got for us?
Well, I just heard a soundbite. It sounded like Trump was saying, if I don't get what I want, I'll just have to declare an emergency.
Yes, that's exactly what it sounded like.
Okay, so what have you guys got planned for May Day?
Are you asking us, comrade, are we marching in the streets? I'm not sure what the question implies. May Day seems like a long time away. Are we going to be celebrating the opening of the government by then?
Well, I should hope so, but if not, what is your plan B? I mean, you guys are, who else get the word out than Resistance Radio? You're working on a promo, aren't you?
That's a lot of pressure, Johnson.
Well, you got to. Oh, and there's another point I want to disagree with you. This goes across party lines.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, at least I'm clear you were disagreeing with us the first time. Dom was less convinced.
Well, okay, it's about the paying the legislators nothing. It crosses party lines now. This new woman, Ocasio-Cortez, she's complaining that she can't hire staff, that she can't even afford to live in Washington
DC,
until she gets money. And remember, we heard the same thing from Sean Duffy. I mean, otherwise we're just going to be led around by the rich. Like Ron Johnson's wife had got so much money, he could hold out forever. That's why I disagree.
Well, Ron Johnson's company, Paycor, reimbursed his campaign, which seemingly was an illegal corporate campaign contribution, but Ron's always been just fine with it. And apparently the FEC was fine with it because he's still a senator and it's been 6-7 years or more. But
I think Johnson makes a great point. Not everybody has that kind of wealth when they go serve, and the ones that would be hurt most by that kind of action would be the ones like Cortez. Ocasio-Cortez.
Scott Walker, if he were a federal employee, if he were Senator Walker, would he forego his pay during the governmental shutdown?
Oh, no.
You know what? We should be able to forego shutting off our AM while the FCC is closed. But unfortunately, they're still listening. We'll turn those off, but we'll stream live. Stick around. More Devil's Advocates. Join us on the phones. 844-967-2789. RealResistanceRadio.com.
I moved on Scott Walker like a bitch.
Good evening, everyone. Due to FCC regulations and that we are an AM daytime radio station, this now concludes our broadcast day. But you don't have to leave us. We do stream online 24/7 at RealResistanceRadio.com. That's RealResistanceRadio.com. Or check us out on the TuneIn app at WRRD. For those of you already streaming, we now continue regular programming, and please welcome your friends from the radio. Say hello, everyone. WRRD 1510 AM and WTTN 1580 AM, Real Resistance Radio. Good night, everyone.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
The 82nd Attorney General of the United States, Mr. Eric Holder.
You're talking about taking away from an Attorney General and from the executive branch core executive branch functions and moving them to the legislative side is something that's inconsistent with the federal Constitution and the Wisconsin state Constitution.
It will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. That's the Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to noon on Real Resistance Radio.
Notorious, so notorious.
The big and tall of political talk. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, Real Resistance Radio. You can call us, join the conversation at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, you said you wanted to talk about something now, and as you are very petulant, much like our president, I just figured I better just go along.
You know, Crudy, well, there was a time LBJ said, if I lost Cronkite, I've lost the country. If Donald Trump loses Fox News, does he lose his base?
Well, he would certainly be in big trouble, Dom.
Napolitano and Shep Smith. This is some interesting back and forth talking about the Manafort and Trump situation. I want to play a little of this sound for you folks because this is coming from Fox News. This isn't Real Resistance Radio. Now, Napolitano, I think, has been fairly, from my perspective, he's been upfront and right on this topic because he agrees with me. But
are you Napolitano or Shep?
Well, I'm Napolitano, man. Come on. Salvia. If my last name ends with a vowel like that, of course, come on.
Yeah, but he got into law school.
Hey, I took the LSAT. Napolitano. Judge
As I
Napolitano.
said, he got into law school.
I could have gotten into a lesser school outside of the state of Wisconsin. I chose to stay home. Napolitano on the Fox News with
Stout
Shep.
doesn't have a law school?
When in doubt, go to Stout.
I went to an Ivy League school.
Yeah.
I'm very highly educated.
Well, those are two separate statements. I'm not clear I agree. I went to a very good school. Then I met Crudy. I'm surprised he got in there, UW La Crosse. I digress. Napolitano on Fox News gives the summary of the Manafort situation. Again, coming from Fox News, I thought this was worth playing for you. Bear with us. Brian, if you would please cut 138.
The government, the prosecutors accused Paul Manafort of lying to FBI agents in violation of his guilty plea to cooperate with them. And they filed their allegations of the lies under seal. We don't know what they were. Paul Manafort's lawyers filed their answer, and they forgot to seal part of it. And the part they forgot to seal was that the FBI accused Paul Manafort of lying about whether or not he gave confidential campaign polling data at the height of the campaign to a Russian oligarch who the FBI has identified as a source for Russian intelligence.
So a Putin man.
Yes.
So a Putin man, that was Shepard Smith jumping in there as well. And I did see on the CNN's Today, apparently Mueller has interviewed one of Trump's pollsters. So perhaps he got firsthand information. We don't know. The pollster perhaps gave this information to Manafort, who then gave it to Kalimnik. his former associate on the Ukraine consultations and other businesses overseas, who presumably passed it along to those higher ups tied to Putin. But let us continue from the Fox News. Napolitano, does this mean that it can independently corroborate and verify that they campaign had ties to Russia without Manafort's testimony? I thought this was pretty important. Let's play that one.
This shows that Bob Mueller can demonstrate to a court, without the testimony of Paul Manafort, that the campaign had a connection to Russian intelligence, and the connection involved information going from the campaign to the Russians. The question is, was this in return for a promise of something from the Russians, and did the candidate, now the president, know about it?
Yes, and probably. I mean, of course, Manafort either directly was enriching himself or thought, he was crossing out an old bad debt. He owed a lot of money to a guy who, had something of a bad reputation. I mean, do you want to owe millions to a Russian oligarch or a former KGB officer?
Probably not. No. I'd like to get outside of that debt.
As would I.
Is it conspiracy? We hear conspiracy versus collusion. Of course, this comes up as well. Let's hear it from Judge Napolitano talking with Shep Smith on the Fox News.
That's the one that looks like Dom.
140, please.
And would that be conspiracy?
Yes. A conspiracy is an agreement to commit a crime. The crime would be to receive something of value from a foreign person or government during a campaign. Whether or not the thing of value arrives, the agreement is what is the crime. There was apparently an agreement between the campaign manager and this Russian oligarch. What the oligarch did with the material we gave him, who the campaign manager Manafort spoke to in the campaign, Bob Mueller has yet to reveal.
It's a curious lie, no?
I
guess you wouldn't want to give up that you're handing things over to Putin's man.
Well, of course not, especially in light of the president's repeated, almost ad nauseum allegations, no collusion with the Russians, no collusion with the Russians.
Well, if this is collusion, though collusion isn't a crime, this would be collusion.
Collusion isn't a crime, this would be collusion. Let's do the next one, Brian.
The crime is conspiracy, the agreement. Collusion is a non-legal term.
Oh, I know. But if there's a collusion, giving stuff to the Russians about polling data,
would probably fit into that kind of a category.
Yeah.
Look, when Paul Manafort was convicted of his financial crimes, the president said, big deal. This was 6 years before he worked for me. This event that has been outlined in these court papers occurred during the campaign, during the summer and spring of 2016.
Dominic, exclusive at CNN. Robert Mueller met with Trump's pollster. Met with or interviewed? Interrogated, if you will. Special counsel Robert Mueller sought information directly last year from one of Donald Trump's campaign pollsters, who is also a former business associate of Paul Manafort. Mueller's team met with pollster Tony Fabrizio in February 2018.
Forget about it.
An interview that has not been previously reported and takes on new significance after Manafort's attorney revealed Tuesday that Mueller's team is interested in how Manafort shared polling data with Russian intelligence-linked colleagues. CNN journalists observed Fabrizio leaving the special counsel's office on the 1st of February last year. And have since confirmed he was meeting with Mueller's team. At the time, the special counsel had been digging into Manafort's finances and political work ahead of his trial. In a filing Tuesday, Manafort's attorneys tried to redact the fact that the prosecutors knew Manafort shared polling data related to the 2016 presidential election with the Russian intelligence-linked associate Konstantin Kalibnik.
Yes! Well done, Michael.
While Manafort was running Trump's presidential campaign. I've been practicing it.
I can tell, man.
The Russian names. Maria Butina. I know, that's how the others say it, but I say it right. And the mother Russian. Scott Walker taught me how to say it properly. The information was supposed to remain secret because it was part of an ongoing investigation, but it was revealed because of a formatting error in the filing. And I got to tell you, man, I'd be ready to fire that lawyer's ass. Formatting error.
Oops. Curdy also.
I mean, the guy's facing charges that he lied to federal authorities.
He's going to die in jail.
One other quick thought, little side thought.
Oh God.
It was Walker's data. Walker's data team, Scott Walker's data team, especially here in the state of Wisconsin. Where were they using this data? If we carry through the conspiracy, the collusion, as Shep Smith and your doppelganger, Judge Napolitano, were discussing on the Fox News, the collusion was over the campaign data, the metadata, the really good stuff. And it was apparently, one must assume, given to the troll farms. And the Russians used that to target specific voters, especially in the very close races. Think Wisconsin. And where would they have gotten the Wisconsin data? Who would have given over his data to Donald Trump, but the guy who's now Donald Trump's bitch, his campaign chair for the re-election campaign right here in the great state of Wisconsin? Scott Walker is a team player, in air quotes. I'm not sure if Russia is the team, but it was Scott Walker's data I strongly suspect that they used to give to the troll farms to target voters here in the state of Wisconsin.
No, Scott Walker had some data people employed that
Cambridge Analytica. They went to Cambridge Analytica.
Every single, not all of them, but several of them went over.
3 of them or more went to Cambridge Analytica. They basically created the insights that were used to get Donald Trump over the finish line. Cambridge Analytica was Donald Trump's team, and the people, the brain trust, the really smart guys and girls, they were all Scott Walker's campaign data team. And Scott Walker had been building that team since the recall.
And now Scott Walker is Donald Trump's bitch in Wisconsin.
Yes.
Crudy, CNBC reporting. A reporter asked Trump at the White House on Thursday. We do not have the sound, so I'm going to read this to you. Mr. President, asked the reporter.
Are you going to do it in a Trump voice?
Mr. President.
Maybe you could purse your lips and gesticulate with your fingers pinched together.
Mr. President, did you know that Paul Manafort was sharing polling data from your campaign with the Russians? No, I didn't know anything about it. Nothing about it.
Here's why you know he's lying. They had a collaborative defense agreement. He and Manafort, right? They're sharing defense. Yet he didn't tell the boss, Manafort didn't tell the boss that he was sharing polling information. Of course he told him. Manafort is not the leader per se. Manafort, he's got expensive taste. And he had to satisfy his fix, apparently. And he'd sell his soul.
Manafort was in deep with the Russians. Trump is in deep with Manafort. I mean, this entire thing talking about the Magnitsky Act and all those issues we continue to bring up over time with this laundered money, $230 million stolen from Russia, invested in Manhattan real estate. I'm sure that's not the first time laundered Russian money was invested in Manhattan real estate.
You know what this has always been about the whole time? The annexation of Crimea. Thank you to our fine guest, Wisconsin State Rep Jimmy Anderson. Thank you, Erin Grunze, Executive Director, League of Women Voters of Wisconsin. Thank you all for listening. We'll do it again on Friday when we air grievances right here on the radio and live to stream nationwide. RealResistanceRadio.com. Have a great night.
Where is the collusion? We want to find the collusion. Find some collusion.
This is a conspiracy. That's what this is.
When Trump gets to the guillotine, you're going to be the first one to go.
The one thing we know, and they do say, anybody that runs against Trump suffers.
I moved him.
Scott Walker.
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald doesn't see the support for legalized medicinal marijuana, even though the 2018 midterm referendum in 11 counties and the city of Waukesha passed by over 79%. Call Scott Fitzgerald